Good morning. Here begins Tape 1, Volume 1, in the videotape deposition of Sibel Edmonds, taken in the matter of Jean Schmidt versus David Krikorian in the Ohio State Elections Commission, case number 2009E-003. Today's date is August 8th, 2009. The time on the video screen is 10:33 and 34 seconds. This deposition is being held in the offices of Stephen Cohn at 3238 P Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. The court reporter today is Chad Jackson. The video camera operator is Mia Marbury. Both are on behalf of Neil Gross Reporting. Will counsel and others present please introduce themselves and state whom they represent?
Dan Marino here on behalf of Mr. Krikorian.
Could I interject an objection here? Is Mr. Marino admitted in this case to practice before the Ohio Elections Commission?
Okay.
What is the answer to that question, sir?
I'm sorry. Why don't you go ahead and identify yourself, David?
David Krikorian.
Do you want? Who's the next gentleman?
Phil Elwood. I work at jail. Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to have everyone identify themselves.
Sure. Okay.
You're Mr.
I'm Mr.
Right?
Bruce Fine. I'm counsel for Jean Schmidt in this proceeding.
Okay.
I'm Michael Cohn with Cohn, and Colapinto, representing the witness Sibel Edmonds, and with me are 3 law clerks.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Will the court reporter please swear in the witness, after which we can begin?
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Ms. Edmonds. I introduced myself to you off the record. My name is Dan Marino. I represent Mr. Krikorian with the law firm of Lukey, Garagos, and Marino here in Washington, D.C.
Now, I'm going to interpose an objection to Mr. Marino asking the question because there's no showing that he's been authorized to participate in the proceeding at issue in this particular matter.
Okay. I want to thank you for coming this morning.
Does Mr. Marino, do you have any proof that you've been admitted to practice in the proceeding before the Ohio Elections Commission in the case of Jean Schmidt versus David Krikorian?
Okay. I'd like to show you what's been
I
marked as
interpose a standing objection, and I will, to every single question Mr. Marino asks until he establishes and testifies or otherwise documents that he is authorized to participate in this proceeding, and that if he continues to do this, we will consider seeking sanctions, including the unauthorized practice of law in Ohio.
Okay. To show you what's been marked as Exhibit 1 to your deposition, I'm afraid I only have one copy of it. It purports to be a subpoena from the Ohio Elections Commission for your testimony today. Have you seen that before?
My attorney's office received it. I believe I have seen the PDF version of that.
Okay. And I take it that you're here in response to that subpoena today, correct?
Correct.
No, I interpose an objection again because the documentary evidence shows the Ohio Election Commission communicated to Mr. Marino that they had no intent of enforcing their subpoena beyond the territorial jurisdiction of Ohio, and that Ms. Edmonds was under no compulsion to attend today, and that is made abundantly clear, and that's a misstatement of the record made by Mr. Marino, and I highly object to that mischaracterization of why Ms. Edmonds is here today.
Let me clarify. Ms. Edmonds is here today with respect to that subpoena as a courtesy of rather than traveling to Ohio.
That is simply a misstatement of the record in this case, which made quite clear that the Ohio Elections Commission was not ordering Ms. Edmonds to appear, that the Justice Department also considered the subpoena that was issued to her here, and that if she wanted to come to Ohio and they wanted to issue a subpoena in Ohio, that's up to them. That is not what happened in this particular case. That is a misstatement of the record.
Well, I guess you don't understand courtesy within the legal community.
You don't understand the documents that have been issued in this particular case. In particular, the document issued by Mr. Phil Richter, the counsel for the Ohio Election Commission, said there was no jurisdiction and they did not intend to enforce the subpoena in the District of Columbia, and that there was no compulsion on Ms. Edmonds to attend this deposition today.
Okay. Kind of makes you wish you went to law school, right? Yeah. I do want to thank you for coming today, Ms. Edmonds, and I did talk to your counsel before the deposition and asked him to communicate to you, and I'll tell you the same thing. I just became involved recently in this case, and I'm going to be asking you a series of questions about some about your background and some about some of the things that we've seen in the press and in connection with some of the issues you've had with the U.S. government, et cetera. And I do want to sort of advise you that until the last couple of days, I really had heard nothing about this case. And so some of my questions are going to seem somewhat elementary. And it's not because I'm playing Columbo or anything like that. It's just because I really don't know the information. So, and in a sense, I think that'll be good because what we're hoping to do with your testimony is provide some education to the folks involved in this. And so in the process of educating me, maybe you'll be educating some of the listeners, people who will see the deposition testimony. Have you had your deposition taken before?
In business, maybe.
Okay. Then you understand the process. As I said, I'm going to be asking a series of questions, and I'm just going to ask you to answer them to the best of your ability. You'll maybe see objections from people from time to time. And unless someone tells you not to answer the question, it's okay to go ahead and answer it, okay? And of course, you can take your guidance from your counsel on when to answer a question, when not to. If at any time you want to stop, take a break, talk to your lawyer, get a drink of water, whatever, just let us know, and we'll be happy to accommodate that. I'd like to start, if we could, with just a little bit of your background, just for the record. I understand from some of the reading I did that you, I think, were born in Iran. Is that correct?
Correct.
I object. This is the standard that Chris Finney asserted in Mr. Krikorian's deposition when a question was raised this follows to Mr. Krikorian, and I'm reading from the transcript of his deposition, page 9. Are you a lifetime Cincinnati area resident, or did you move here at some point? Mr. Krikorian's attorney, Mr. Finney, objection. What does this have to do with the case? And the statement that we agreed to with Mr. Finney, that unless there's a particular question that goes to the allegations of falsehood and intentional falsehoods in this case, it is off limits. That's the standard that Chris Finney, counsel for Mr. Krikorian, established in his deposition, and it applies here in the same way. Whether she was born in Iran has nothing to do with the allegations that I can see that Jean Schmidt has lodged against Mr. Krikorian, and unless there's some demonstration of some relevance, then I object to answering that question the same way that Mr. Finney objected to Mr. Krikorian answering whether he was a lifetime Cincinnati resident.
Okay. I think you answered that, yes, you were born in Iran, and then you ultimately moved to Turkey at some point? Is that correct?
Correct. Because
And I also
was
have a
always
standing
Turkish
objection
citizen.
on relevance for the same reasons.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the answer.
Yes, because I was always a Turkish citizen because my parents were Turkish. So we were there because of my father's job, and then we moved back to Turkey.
All right. And I understand you speak a number of languages, in addition to English, correct?
Correct.
What are those languages?
Turkish is my mother language.
Okay.
After that, Farsi, that's the language spoken in Iran.
Okay.
And I also have conversational abilities in Azerbaijani.
I'll just interpose a standing objection so we can move along on relevance grounds that I don't believe that there's been any establishment that the witness knows anything about the allegations in the complaint. So just to speed things along, I'll have a standing objection on relevance to every single question asked until there's some connection between her knowledge of the complaint and the question that relates to the facts in the complaint.
And at some point, you moved to the United States?
Correct.
And when was that?
1988, July 1988.
All right. And can you just tell us about your educational background, please?
Sure. I have a master's degree in public policy from George Mason University. I have bachelor's degrees in psychology and in criminal justice from George Washington University. I have a AS degree from Northern Virginia Community College in biology. And I finished high school in Turkey. I graduated in 1988 in Istanbul.
And I understand, again, just to move things along a little quickly, that at some point you became a contract employee with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when was that?
I started working for the FBI on around September 15, 2001.
And when you became employed at the FBI, did you receive a top secret security clearance?
Yes, I did.
And how did it come to be that you were working for the FBI?
Okay, I will try to summarize the story so it won't take too long. When I was studying for my bachelor's degree, criminal justice and psychology, I had applied for internship position with the FBI, and this would be around 1997, 1998. And they never responded to me, and except that they were interested in my linguistic abilities because I spoke Turkish and Farsi. And then I didn't hear back from them, and I was contacted around September 11, 2001, and they said they had obtained top secret clearance for me, and they needed my services for translation in Turkish and Farsi. And they wanted me to start immediately, and because I couldn't work full-time, I took the contractor's position with the FBI for translation of those languages, and to a certain degree Azerbaijani.
All right. And so can you describe what your job was with the FBI, and aside from translating those languages?
I assisted special agents, both the primary supervisory special agents in Washington D.C. field office, but also special agents in charge of various counterintelligence and counterterrorism investigations around the country, and those were different FBI field offices.
Okay. Now, when you refer to counterintelligence operations, can you just tell us what that means?
Counterintelligence operations in the FBI had to do with collecting information, monitoring particular target foreign entities in the United States.
And just to, I'm probably oversimplifying it, but it's sort of a matter of public record that the FBI may have people who listen to telephone conversations, other types of intercepted conversations that are in foreign languages.
Leading question.
And they have translators who translate those. Correct?
Objection leading.
Information could have been both conversational audio, but also documents, written documents, or in certain cases, direct surveillance.
And
For the record, I'd just like to note that I've asked the witness to limit her responses only to the information that she believes to be publicly available, or she's learned from sources outside of her employment. So I just want that on the record.
okay, and I appreciate that, and I have had in the past the chance to work with intelligence officers in these kinds of cases, and I realize that you can't get into sources and methods and so forth. And if I'm straying into that area in any way, just let me know and I'll back off. It is a matter of public record, however, that our government, through the FBI, primarily does do counterintelligence work with respect to foreign nationals and foreign organizations, correct?
Correct.
And those would include Turkish organizations.
Correct.
And my understanding is that you were terminated by the FBI, or at least your contract was terminated in, is it March or April of 2002?
April 2002, correct.
And so from September of 2001 until April of 2002, you were engaged in this activity of listening to and translating documents and conversational audio, correct?
Correct.
Again, these were materials that were related to counterintelligence operations, correct?
Not limited to counterintelligence. Some of them cross-border criminal related investigations,
okay.
And also I also translated for counterterrorism division.
Okay. So all three of those.
Correct.
Right. Now, and I take it that you were translating, obviously, the languages that you were fluent in, correct? Turkish, Farsi.
Although initially I performed translation for all 3 languages, but within a few weeks, because of the need in the FBI, urgent need, I was placed primarily on Turkish, and that became my main language that I used to work for the FBI.
So, again, I know it sounds elementary, but just by way of background, you were translating documents and conversations that were created by and spoken by people who spoke Turkish, correct?
Correct. But because the targets could also speak English, and this couldn't have been known to the FBI agents until I first went through the information, I also had to transcribe and make notes of pertinent pieces of conversation in English also. So I had to listen to a lot of English conversation and notify my bosses in the FBI of the ones that were important.
Okay. Now, let me jump ahead to April of 2002, and you said your contract was terminated by the FBI. Can you tell us why that happened?
After I was hired by the FBI in September 2001, about a month or so later, FBI hired another language specialist for a Turkish division in the FBI's Washington field office. And a few weeks after this person, Melek Can Dickerson, M-E-L-E-K, middle name C-A-N, last name Dickerson, D-I-C-K-E-R-S-O-N. And she also had top security clearance. My main primary agent for Turkish counterintelligence and we, through various evidence and incidents, became aware that she had worked for certain Turkish organizations and entities that were directly the targets of FBI counterintelligence investigations, and that she had lied in her application, and that for unknown reasons to us, I don't know why, the FBI security background check had not caught that important information despite even her tax filing records. And not only that, Melek Can Dickerson and her husband, at the time he was a major with the Defense Intelligence Agency, Major Douglas Dickerson, and he was working for Douglas Feit's office and was a coordinator with the State Department on the Turkic republics in Central Asia. Both husband and wife, Melek Can Dickerson and her husband, they were still associating and had working relationships with these Turkish entities, individuals, and organizations that were the targets of FBI investigations. As we started reporting this to our superiors, initially there was a panic in the department, but as it went up further to the headquarters, this is the FBI headquarters, the FBI headquarters started retaliating against me. And eventually they terminated my contractor. And there is an Inspector General's report available publicly that came out, I believe, in 2005, that confirmed all my allegation and the fact that FBI fired me simply due to my activities in whistleblowing in making this known to the FBI and later to the Congress, and that the evidence on the translator in question was supported by other witnesses from the FBI and documents. So that's a public document report.
Right. There's an unclassified version of that report which has been made public, correct?
Correct.
And that report basically substantiated the allegations that you were making regarding Ms. Dickerson.
Correct.
And the concerns that you had regarding Ms. Dickerson pertain to espionage, really, right?
Correct.
And that was in part because of the fact that she was associated with these, she and her husband were associated with these targets of counterintelligence operations,
Correct.
who were Turkish entities, organizations. Is that correct?
Yes, and certain U.S. entities who were also part of these espionage-related operations.
Was one of the organizations that you were concerned about the American Turkish Council?
Yes.
Were there others?
Yes.
Can you identify them, please?
Certain Turkish diplomatic community in Washington D.C. and other locations, and other Turkish cultural and business-related associations and lobbying groups with various chapters in various cities and states in the United States.
Right. Without asking you specifically who the targets were at this point, when you hear the term, have you ever heard the term Turkish lobby?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Can you be more specific? It means many things to me.
Just what comes to mind when you. Again, I came into this a couple of days ago. I've seen the term Turkish lobby, see people referring to it. If someone uses that term, can you tell us either generally or specifically what it means to you?
Correct. It means two sets of things. One set is the overt Turkish lobby, that is classic lobbying for business interests, governmental relationship interests, commerce, etc. And the other category is the covert activities and operations by the lobby that many of which may not be legal.
And when we talk about the overt Turkish lobby, can you identify the organizations you're thinking of there?
There are so many. American Turkish Council is the primary organization, which is directly works with the diplomatic community in the United States, Turkish diplomatic community, that is. ATAA, with another umbrella under which there are various locations and chapters, such as ATA Chicago, ATA Paterson, New Jersey, ATA D.C., and also some that are identified as cultural, such as TAKA, Turkish American Cultural Association. There are hundreds of small chapters, and I don't know some of these, but the main ones would be American Turkish Council, ATAA, ATA and its various chapters throughout the country in the United States, TAKA, Turkish American Business Association is another primary one.
About ATA, is that the Assembly of Turkish America Associations?
I believe that's what it stands for.
How about, have you heard of the Turkish Coalition of America?
Just through some cursory reading recently.
Okay. And if familiar with an organization called the Turkish American Legal Defense Fund?
I don't recall.
Okay. Have you ever met Mr. Fine before, who's present here today?
I haven't met him personally, no.
Okay. You aware of the fact that he's associated with the Turkish American Legal Defense Fund?
I didn't know that.
Okay. The organizations you identified just now were, I think you identified as, the ones you identified, not the ones I asked you about, but the ones you identified, I think you were listing as part of the overt Turkish lobby, correct?
Okay, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was asking about what is meant by the Turkish lobby, and you said that there are overt forms of the Turkish lobby and there are covert forms. Right? The organizations we were talking about, are they part of the overt Turkish lobby, if you will?
They are part of both overt and covert.
Okay. So when you talk about the covert Turkish lobby, what are you referring to there?
Activities that would involve trying to obtain very sensitive, classified, highly classified U.S. intelligence information, weapons technology information, classified congressional records, recruiting key U.S. individuals with access to highly sensitive information, blackmailing, bribery. These are some of the ones that just pops, and there are many others that I may be able to think of.
Well, by way of example, I think you indicated that Ms. Dickerson, by the way, is she ever referred to as Jan Dickerson?
Correct. That's how she went at the FBI, and as far as I know, elsewhere she used her middle name in the United States, Jan Dickerson.
Now, I read in some of the reports about an incident where Ms. Dickerson showed up at your home unexpectedly on Sunday.
Correct.
And can you tell us what happened when she arrived there?
Sure. She came to my house with her husband, who at the time was Major Douglas Dickerson. And he identified himself first as the officer for Air Force, but later said that his real task was operations involving weapons procurements by countries in Central Asia and Turkey, and that he directly worked with Douglas Veit and Paul Wolfowitz.
Okay.
At the time. This would be 2001 December.
Right. And they came to your home on Sunday morning?
Yes, social business, they said.
And during that discussion, during that visit, did you come to believe that Ms. Dickerson was recruiting you?
Yes, I did.
For what?
They wanted me to join the American Turkish Council, and they told me that I would be provided with many benefits, both monetary but also prestigious benefits, if I were to enroll with them.
Okay. And did you know at the time that the American Turkish Council was one of the counterintelligence targets?
Absolutely, yes.
And did you believe Ms. Dickerson knew that as well?
She, yes, and the fact because her husband associated with American Turkish Council and she worked for them.
And did you report this effort to recruit you to your superiors?
Immediately, the next day, I reported it in writing to my direct administrative supervisor, and a few days later to my agent, who was my supervisory agent, but also again in writing to the FBI's personnel security office, because I was obligated for my top secret clearance to report recruitment attempts.
Okay. Now, why, if you can tell me, why would the American Turkish Council be a counterintelligence target?
Certain individuals from that organization, American Turkish Council, certain individuals were involved with other individuals outside American Turkish Council, which includes diplomatic community and Turkish diplomatic community, and other sub-chapter organizations. I say sub-chapter because even though it's not known, ATA is not formally known as American Turkish Council's sub-chapter, but they do a lot of activities through ATA in various cities and states in the United States. And those individuals were involved in operations that were counterintelligence related, and not if they were against the United States interest and security.
Okay. Was there, make sure I have this correct, was there a particular individual at the American Turkish Council who had connections to the Turkish embassy in Washington at that time?
There were several people there.
And again, just because I don't know, to your knowledge, was the American Turkish Council an organization that was supported by the Turkish government?
I don't know directly, but indirectly,
Yeah,
yes.
it's conjecture.
I mean-
Object. Only speak based upon your personal knowledge. Conjecture and speculation otherwise. I move to strike your answer unless it's based upon personal knowledge.
And
Based on-
you can answer the question. just
Based
as
on
I
my
asked it.
personal knowledge, they were indirectly supporting it. Turkish government was indirectly supporting the American Turkish Council. Certain individuals and operations and projects that, yes.
Okay, and how were they supplying that support?
Without getting into specifics, it's hard to explain. They could arrange for intermediary business individuals to make payments for certain activities, lobbying activities, or intelligence gathering activities, or activities involved in weapon procurement deals between Turkey and the United States.
So one of the basic means of support would be money, correct?
Money when they could, yes.
So if I said that the American Turkish Council, for example, was an organization supported by the Turkish government, that wouldn't be an unreasonable assumption.
Correct. It would have been.
What about some of these other members of the Turkish lobby that we've talked about? Would I be unreasonable in assuming that those organizations might be receiving support from the Turkish government?
They were all receiving, the ones that I knew of, yes, directly.
The question was, could I just clarify for my own mind? The question was based upon the witness's personal knowledge. She knows that all the other organizations that were targets, they were receiving money from the government of Turkey. Is that the question and answer?
You know, Mr. Fine's going to have an opportunity, I think, to ask some questions when I'm finished. But right now, you and I will just have questions and answers. So what happened when you reported to your superiors at the FBI that Ms. Dickerson was trying to recruit you for this organization, American Turkish Council?
At the initial stage, this is for Washington field office, before it went all the way up to the FBI headquarters, there was a climate of panic. The agent I worked with, Special Agent Dennis Sasher, informed the counter-espionage section, department in the FBI, wrote a letter to the FBI headquarters, and he also asked for an immediate damage assessment because some of our FBI's counterintelligence primary targets, the targets were graded in different, they had different grades. Some primary targets were the ones that Ms. Dickerson was working with closely and she and her husband associating. So that was the initial response.
Okay. And ultimately, did they take any action against Ms. Dickerson or her husband?
Again, initially, during this initial stage, I believe they asked her to take polygraph, and they also, the FBI's counter-espionage unit, they set up the date and time to have some kind of an interrogation. They called it the surprise interrogation session with her that they set up, but they were prevented from pursuing it later.
Okay. And they also had you take a polygraph test, right?
Correct.
And the polygraph examiners found that you were not deceptive.
Yes,
right?
I was absolutely truthful.
Right. Now, in your experience, both at the FBI and since then, what is it that the Turkish lobby, what kinds of issues are they traditionally concerned about in our country?
Various issues that I'm aware of. Some, the more overt ones, the foreign policy of the United States. Another, the weapon procurement from the United States and the military aid. And political front is the being able to secure grants from United States Congress for their operations, or some of them joint operations in Central Asia and Middle East. The front companies for construction or road building, etc., and to be able to secure these grants from Congress for those front organizations. Armenian Genocide and preventing that from ever being brought up or passed in Congress or even discussed in the mainstream media is another political objectives that they pursue very strongly. These are the overt ones. So these are the overt ones.
All right. In your experience, then these are issues that the Turkish government is concerned about?
Not only, yes, Turkish government is concerned, but also other entities with their own special interest who are very concerned about these issues.
Okay. Can you identify those?
Some of them are business entities. The others are more like clusters of criminal gangs would be the best way to describe them.
Okay.
That may or may not be independent from the central government.
You mentioned the Armenian Genocide issues. My understanding is that there have been resolutions proposed, introduced, discussed in Congress to recognize the Armenian Genocide, correct?
Correct.
And those have been controversial resolutions over the years.
Correct.
And so when you refer to this Turkish lobby regarding that as an issue, it would be their intent to prevent such a resolution from being passed by the U.S. Congress, correct?
Correct.
Now, am I correct that, I know you don't work for the FBI now, but would you consider yourself sort of still involved in some of the issues that we've been discussing?
Somewhat, yes.
Do you, am I correct that you have a blog on the internet?
Yes.
You post material on that?
Yes.
One of the things that I saw on your blog is something called a State Secrets Privilege Gallery. You know what I'm referring to?
That is on my personal website that is public, justacitizen.com, correct.
Okay. And when you talk about the state secrets privilege, I think I know what you mean by that. Can you tell us what you're referring to?
State secrets privilege is this arcane executive privilege that the government, United States government, invoked in my case twice in order to quash my court case, but also prevent the public knowledge of information I reported to Congress, to the Inspector General's office, and to the FBI and the Justice Department itself. And basically it acts as a gag order. And the only justification the U.S. government provided for it was she may be right with whatever she knows and she believes is important and crucial, but because the information she has may threaten and affect certain U.S. diplomatic relations and national security, we are asking the courts and the Congress to consider these as executive privilege called state secrets privilege.
Okay. And just to bring me up to date, you filed a lawsuit against the government at some point, correct?
Correct.
And that was because of your termination by the FBI, right?
And my First Amendment rights, correct.
And if I understand it correctly, the government used the state secrets privilege to get that lawsuit thrown out.
The first invocation, yes.
Okay. Was there a second invocation?
Yes, my deposition was subpoenaed by a law firm called Motley Rice. I think it's Motley, separate word RICE, who represented thousands of 9/11 victims' family members. And they subpoenaed my deposition. And I believe this was in 2004. That was when the government, FBI, and the Justice Department went to the judge who was sitting on my case and asked him to quash it based on state secrets privilege, and they cited the state secrets privilege together with affidavits from the various individuals in the Justice Department, including the Attorney General, and asked the judge to quash that deposition for the second time.
So these were lawyers who were representing the families of the 9/11 victims, correct? Wanted to get information from you?
The lawyers of the family victims, yes, victims' family, correct.
And did you understand why they thought you had relevant information?
Macro level, yes. I didn't know what they were planning to ask specifically, but it had to do with certain Turkish lobby and organizations in the United States who also had certain dealings with Saudi Arabia-related financial and lobby organizations in the United States, and cases that would have involved both Saudi Arabia and Turkey jointly working, doing certain things here in the United States, but also outside the United States.
Okay. And I think you said earlier, basically the government prevented you from giving that information to the families of the 9/11 victims, correct?
Correct. It's been 5 years, but to my best of knowledge, they forced the party who was subpoenaing me to submit questions, and they said all those questions are classified and covered by the state secrets privilege, and they invoked it. Correct.
Okay. Now, on that website, in this state secrets privileged gallery, it seems like you have photographs of various individuals, right?
Yes.
Is Dan Burton one of the people who's in the gallery?
His pictures is there, yes.
Okay. Why is his picture there?
I can't discuss the details of those individuals' not legal activities in the United States, but those pictures, his and others, are there because state secrets privilege was mainly invoked to cover up those individuals' extremely illegal activities against the United States citizens who were involved in operations that were for the foreign governments and foreign entities against the United States interests.
Okay. And Dan Burton is a representative member of Congress from Indiana. Is that correct? Is that the right place?
I believe he is.
Okay. What about, it also appears that you have a photograph of Dennis Hastert in the gallery?
Yes.
Okay, and why is his photograph there?
Again, this information is public, has been public. It's, he would be one of the primary U.S. persons involved in operations and activities that are not legal, and they are not for the interest of the United States, but for the interest of foreign governments and foreign entities.
Okay. Now, and again, Mr. Hastert was the Speaker of the House and representative from Illinois?
At the time, he was.
Can you tell me anything about what your concerns are about Mr. Hastert?
This information has been public. The concerns, again, would be in several categories. The acceptance of large sums of bribery in forms of cash or laundered cash, and laundering it to make it look legal for his campaigns and also for his personal use in order to do certain favors and call for certain actions and make certain things happen for foreign entities and foreign governments' interest, Turkish government's interest and Turkish business entities' interests.
Did you have reason to believe that Mr. Hastert, for example, killed one of the Armenian Genocide resolutions in exchange for
Leading
money
question.
money from these Turkish organizations?
Yes, I do.
So if I were to say that a member of Congress, if I were just to walk out on the street and say, I think members of Congress have taken money from these Turkish organizations in exchange for denying the Armenian genocide, would that be an unreasonable assumption on my
That's
part?
pure conjecture. The individual is a totally
It wouldn't be.
irrelevant object.
Are you aware of other members of Congress other than Mr. Hastert taking money from Turkish organizations in exchange for denying the Armenian genocide?
Yes, and not only taking monies, but other activities too, including being blackmailed for various reasons.
Stephen Solars is on in your gallery as well. I believe he's a representative from New York. Is that correct? I'm really guessing because I don't know.
He used to be.
Was. Right.
Correct. He is a registered lobbyist for the or was a registered lobbyist for the government of Turkey.
And Mr. Hastert is also a registered lobbyist for the government of Turkey now.
That's what I have read, and it was announced. Yes, he is.
Okay. And why is Mr. Solars in your gallery? If you can tell me. Bless you.
Bless you. Mr. Solars and certain others in the gallery, as lobbyists, they also acted as conduits to deliver or launder contribution and other briberies to certain members of Congress, but also in pressuring outside Congress, and including blackmail in certain members of Congress.
And Mr. Solars and others would be doing this on behalf of these Turkish organizations?
And the Turkish government, correct, both.
Would you say that, would it be your opinion that the Turkish government, through these Turkish organizations in the United States and otherwise, has corrupted members of Congress?
Objection. She's just asking for an opinion. This is supposed to be a witness who testifies to facts.
Absolutely, yes.
And is that based on you just speculating, or is it based on something else?
Based on documented and provable facts and files, and based on facts, 100%, and documented facts.
Now, and are some of those documented facts that you're referring to, are they public knowledge? Are they in the public domain, in other words?
Some of them through various, reporting and other sources who have been disturbed and talked, yes.
And is your opinion based in part upon your experience working on counterintelligence matters for the United States?
To the extent she can answer that question without... why don't we just withdraw that question?
Okay, that's fair enough. It looks like you have a photo of Bob Livingston on your gallery as well.
Yes.
And I believe he was a congressman from, I want to say Louisiana at some point.
Correct.
He was the one that was going to be the speaker, but then left.
Yes.
Why is he in your gallery?
Until 1999, until he left, for activities that he was engaged, not very legal activities on behalf of foreign interests and entities, and after 1999, acting as a conduit to, again, further foreign interests, both overtly and covertly, as a lobbyist, but also as an operative.
When you say as an operative, what do you mean by that?
In order to explain, I will give you a an example, maybe? Is that okay?
Sure.
Just a hypothetical example? Or
It's okay with me. Yeah.
okay, if an individual has companies set up and clients in offshore islands like Cayman Islands, for example, and is able to, as an operative, to launder money by foreign entities that were obtained illegally, and some of them had to do with narcotics, and use these Cayman Islands offshore accounts to do that, and then some of that money goes to the congressional people. I would call that not overt, I would call that covert operations, covert operations for that person, rather than the classic lobbying operation.
All right, we've been going for about 55 minutes. Why don't we take a break, 10-minute break, and rest the fingers. And
Going off the record, the time on the video screen is 11:23 and 57 seconds. Going back on the record, the time on the video screen is 11:43 and 32 seconds. Please continue.
Ms. Edmonds, have you ever reviewed your Wikipedia entry?
Once in a while I do. I don't know when was the last time, but maybe a year ago.
Okay. And do you know, I mean, have you ever contributed to it, or do you know people who do contribute to it?
No, I know many people, they take any mainstream media articles or any reports, they put it in there, but no, I haven't contributed.
Have you, when you've looked at it, have you thought that it's generally accurate about the statements that it makes?
Yes, generally yes.
One of the things that it indicates in your biographical information is that you've made certain allegations. Some of them we've talked about a little bit, and I wanted to ask you about some of the others. One of the entries indicates nuclear secrets black market. It says, Edmonds alleges that in the course of her work for the government, she found evidence that the FBI, State Department, and Pentagon had been infiltrated by a Turkish and Israeli-run intelligence network that paid high-ranking officials to steal nuclear weapons secrets. And they have some footnotes for that and some sites. Is that correct that you've made those allegations?
That information is correct, and if ever we may think it, I would say those government organizations and others, there's another place missing there. They list the State Department, etc., but there's one other place that's missing.
And what is that place?
That would be RAND Corporation.
And can you tell me about give me some more information about the Turkish and Israeli-run intelligence network that is referred to there?
Again, this information has been public, without getting into any methods of intelligence gathering. Yes, through certain U.S. Officials, executively appointed officials, foreign entities, not necessarily or not only government related. So if you say Israel and Turkey, not only government related, but other entities, because it has multi-layers, their operations, and some of these layers, sometimes they conduct their operations independently and with the sole purpose of obtaining a profit. And therefore, the information they obtain, let's say the nuclear or weapons technology related information, doesn't necessarily only go to Turkey or Israel, but they sell it to the highest bidder. That's how they operate. They contact their people, whether it is in ISI, in Washington D.C., part of the military attaché for Pakistani intelligence, or the certain Saudi business people in Detroit may be contacted, and they say, okay, I'm talking about these Turkish entities, we have obtained this particular DVD containing this, and this person is willing to pay $500,000, will you offer more? Because if you don't, we will give it to this person. So what I'm trying to say is they do it both for governments, foreign governments, but some of those operatives, they offer it in open market, and they have individuals on their payroll almost every major nuclear facility in the United States, Rand Corporation, and various, in Midwest, various Air Force labs that develop certain weapons technology, which I'm not very familiar with the technology itself.
When you refer to when the article refers to the paid high-ranking American officials, can you identify who they are?
That person has been identified by others, and he has been identified as as Mr. Mark Grossman, who used to work for the State Department.
And Mr. Grossman, I think, is also in your gallery, correct?
Yes.
And I read somewhere that Mr. Grossman had some relationships with a Turkish organization, Turkish diplomats here in the United States.
Yes, he had very, very close relationship with not only Turkish diplomatic communities and entities, but business, and also some of these criminal layer operatives that I told you about. And currently that he's not working, he actually is working for a Turkish company called İhlas Holding.
Okay. Now, was Mr. Grossman the ambassador to Turkey at some point?
Yes.
Okay. And then what was his position at the State Department, if you recall?
He had several different positions. I believe in 1999 or 2000 was European affairs that dealt a lot with NATO. And afterwards, during an early Bush administration's stage, he was the second or the third highest person in the State Department. I'm not sure about the title.
And during that time, when he was the second or third highest ranking person at state, I've read somewhere that you have alleged that he actually warned the Turkish embassy about a CIA front company that had been set up to stop proliferation of nuclear weapons.
That will be summer 2001, whatever title he held at that point. Mr. Grossman informed a certain Turkish diplomatic entity who was also an independent operative of a company called Brewster Jennings, because Brewster Jennings was frequenting the American-Turkish Council as a consulting or analyst firm, and there were certain nuclear-related operatives who wanted to hire Brewster Jennings and have it pose as a front company. So there were talks between those Turkish operatives and Brewster Jennings, and Mr. Grossman wanted those people to be warned that Brewster Jennings was a government front for government, and it was a front. It was not a company. It was a front for government, U.S. government, and for those Turkish individuals to be told to stay away from Brewster Jennings. But the person who received that information, the Turkish diplomatic but also operative, actually contacted the Pakistani military attaché and discussed with the person who was there about this fact, and also warned them to stay away from Brewster Jennings.
And now, was this one of the allegations or one of the concerns that you brought to the attention of anybody at any point?
You mean when I was working for the FBI,
Yes.
when I blew the whistle inside the FBI?
Right.
No, I didn't do it inside the FBI because at that point I didn't know they were covering up this information only after I was fired and the state secrets privilege was invoked. And knowing what I knew, I went to Congress and discussed it with certain people in Congress. I brought it up with the Inspector General's office inside during a meeting, and at that point I provided them with details in terms of dates and who were those targets, which I can't, the direct targets of them.
And when you say the Inspector General's office, do you mean the DOJ Inspector General?
Correct, I'm sorry, Mr. Glenn Fines, under Glenn Fines' office.
And why would Mr. Grossman, if you know, warn the Turkish government, other people, not to deal with the CIA front company?
there were various relationships and various activities. Mr. Grossman was engaged with these individuals, and I don't know which reasons was the top reason for him to do it. Some of them were the monetary relationship, but others dated back to operations that he was leading while he was an ambassador in U.S. ambassador in Ankara, in Turkey, up until 1997. And some of these operatives dealt with him, and they were doing certain operations in Central Asia for him. I don't know who he was working for, Mr. Grossman, at the time for these operations. It's hard for me to tell. He was involved in so many different things, and I don't know which one constituted the biggest reason he was providing this.
Just going back to the Israeli, but we've talked mostly about the Turkish organizations, Turkish government. Are you aware of any either Israeli government or Israeli organizations influencing members of Congress as well?
Not directly. Not directly.
Indirectly?
Indirectly, based on how they work, some of the largest Israeli lobby groups with the entities such as AT and also the Turkish diplomatic community, and how they actually train and make it possible for the Turkish lobby and these entities to do it. They had training period between 96 and 98 from individuals that were sent to them from both AIPAC and JINSA, both on the lobbying but also on covering the money track, covering up the money track.
One of the other entries on your Wikipedia entry indicates that you'd accused Mr. Hastert and members of the U.S. government of, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly. The entry says Edmonds also accuses Dennis Hastert of taking bribes. I think we've talked about that a little bit, correct?
Yes.
And then it says, and high-ranking members of the U.S. government of nuclear secrets to Turkey and Pakistan. Did you allege that high-ranking members of the U.S. government had sold nuclear secrets to Turkey and Pakistan?
So they were involved in operations that were obtaining illegally U.S. weapons and nuclear-related technology and sell it to foreign governments and also foreign independent operatives.
Now, one of the other entries indicates, it says 911 foreknowledge. And I'll just read it. It says, she claims that the FBI received information in April 2001 from a reliable Iranian intelligence asset that Osama bin Laden was planning attacks on 4 to 5 cities with planes. Some of the people were already in the country, and the attacks would happen in a few months. Did you make that claim?
I took the language specialist, Farsi-speaking language specialist, the senior language specialist from the Iranian division, Farsi division in FBI Washington field office, who worked right next to me, to the 9/11 Commission and Inspector General's office, and he testified on this. He informed me and he showed me this translator, Behruz Sarshar, and there's documents out there that he went to Inspector General's office. He gave them the documents, the translated documents on these Iranians. I was not part of that translation. I was not involved. After I left the FBI, because I was witness to that departments, what they had obtained, I just facilitated Mr. Sarshar's meeting with 9/11 Commission and also with the Glenn Fine, Department of Justice Inspector General's office, and I put him in touch with the members of media. But that's my only involvement with that Iranian case.
Do you believe that that's why the 9/11, the families of the 9/11 victims wanted to get your testimony in connection with their case?
I am not sure, because as far as I knew, it had to do with the government of Saudi Arabia and the Saudi Arabian financial institutions. I was not told anything about Iranian case.
We've talked about some members of Congress having connections with Turkish government or Turkish organizations. Are there others that you're aware of, other than the ones we've discussed already?
Congressional members?
Congressional members?
Yes.
Can you identify some of them?
Their pictures are on I have pictures included on my website,
Okay.
and they can be identified. There are several there, outside the ones you named.
All right. I looked at the website but didn't recognize
Okay.
some of them. So would you be able to tell me who the other pictures are?
Others have been identified, they're all identified as public information.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Lantis is one of them. I believe he passed away. And Tom Lantis' office would be not only with the bribe, but also in disclosing highest level protected U.S. intelligence and weapons technology information both to Israel and to Turkey. His office was also involved with that. It was not only bribery, but it was other very serious criminal conduct. Roy Blunt is there. There's an individual with a question mark there. The reason it's a question mark is I was terminated by April 2002, but this particular congresswoman, these Turkish organizations and operatives, if they can't do it via money, they do via blackmail. So they collect information on sexual lives and other information like that. Mm-hmm. And with this particular congresswoman, between 2000 and until I left, this congresswoman is married with children, grown children, but she is bisexual. So they had sent Turkish female agents, and that Turkish female agent worked for Turkish government, and had sexual relationship with this congresswoman in her townhouse actually in this area. And the entire episodes of their sexual conduct was being filmed because the entire house, this congressional woman's house, was bugged. And so they had all that documented to be used for certain things that they wanted to request. But I left, so I don't know whether that congresswoman complied and gave. That's why I couldn't use her name, because I meant her face, because I don't know if she did anything illegal afterwards. But information was being collected for blackmail purposes and her lesbian relationship. And the Turkish entities wanted both congressional related favoritism from her, but also her husband was in a high position in the area in the state she was elected from, and these Turkish entities ran certain illegal operations, and they wanted her husband's help. But I don't know if she provided them with those. I left. I was terminated.
Can you tell me how you know all of that? Everything you just told me?
I can't discuss the intelligence gathering method by the FBI, but in general terms, when foreign targets among themselves discuss how they were going to achieve certain goals, objectives, and if those communications are collected and recorded, not only that you have communication, but in some cases, the involved field office can send surveillance team to see that actually they implemented. For example, if they say somebody says at 5 o'clock we're going to bug this house, the surveillance team would go and see that, yeah, in fact, these people broke in. And so there were various ways and things were collected.
Right. So just to make sure I understand this, the Turkish entities were at least preparing to blackmail this congresswoman.
Correct.
And is this congresswoman still a sitting member of Congress?
Yes.
And why, if you know, they want to blackmail this congresswoman?
I don't know what reasons they had, why they just didn't do money. They needed, I was trained as a language specialist by my agent to find pertinent information. And one of the things that we were taught in the FBI, everyone was taught in the counterintelligence, that the target U.S. persons, whether they are in Congress or executive branch or wherever, first go by foreign entities through what they refer to as hooking period. And it was very common. It's a very common way of trying to find vulnerabilities, and that is sexual, financial, any other kinds of greeds, and it was done a lot. It was being done a lot. And in some cases, certain people from Pentagon would send a list of individuals with access to sensitive data, whether weapons technology or nuclear technology, and this information would include all their sexual preference, how much they owed on their homes, if they have gambling issues, and the State Department, high-level State Department person would provide it to these foreign operatives, and those foreign operatives then would go and hook those Pentagon people, whether they were at RAND or some other Air Force base, and then the hooking period would take sometimes 6 months, sometimes 1 year. They would ask for a small favor, but eventually, after they would do the targets, the U.S. person, some small favors, then they would go blackmail, and then that person would give them everything. Nuclear-related information, weapons-related information, it always worked for them. So it was not always money.
If you know, I mean, what was it that these Turkish entities wanted from this congresswoman?
I know for sure that Armenian Genocide was one, but also where she came from, that city, the district where she came from, is where certain Turkish operatives, lobby groups run illegal businesses for fundraising for themselves to generate money. And for laundering that money, they needed her influence in that she is from, and also her husband, because her husband was also involved, had some high-level position, not an elected person, with where she came from. And they had another representative who was making it possible, but supposedly she, at that point, was an obstacle. That's all I know.
In your experience, I mean, was this hooking technique used with other members of Congress by Turkish entities?
Well, when I worked for the FBI, I worked on operations that were not only current, but a specific period of 1996 till 2001 December, 2002 January. So there were a lot of things that a certain field office had provided me to go over, and some of that I didn't complete. But one example would be with regard to Mr. Hastert. For example, he used a townhouse that was not his residence, and for certain not very morally accepted activities. Now, whether that was being used as blackmail, I don't know. But the fact that foreign entities knew about this, in fact, they sometimes participated in some of those not maybe morally well activities in that particular townhouse that was supposed to be an office, not a house, residence, at certain hours, certain days, evenings of the week. So I can't say if that was used as blackmail or not, but certain activities, they were shared, they were known.
With respect to the congresswoman who they were, you don't know what happened ultimately because you left, right? Or you
Correct.
were terminated.
Correct.
But with respect to that congresswoman, you said one of the things that they wanted was, you said Armenian Genocide. I assume you were referring to the fact they wanted her support to
Yes.
oppose the Armenian Genocide resolution.
Yes. And she was not leaning that way during that stage until this hooking started.
And does it surprise you that they would go to those lengths to gain her opposition to such a resolution?
No, not at all.
Well, why not?
I don't know what their reason is that they are going to this extent. I mean, they may have, I mean, I can only guess what their reasons are, but they would do anything. It's a very important issue, and whether it's money, whether it's sexual blackmail, anything they would do to not let this happen or get the support so it wouldn't happen.
Are you aware of, other than the people that we've talked about, and I want to come back to Roy Blunt in a minute, but aside from the people we've talked about, are you aware of other current sitting members of Congress who you believe have been given money by the Turkish lobby, Turkish government, to oppose the Armenian Genocide resolution?
Objection, speculation.
You can answer.
The pictures are there, and I just talked about the congressional woman with the question mark because I don't know whether she complied with their, but those are it. Everything that those people are all there at that website, the pictures. Yeah.
Why is, just before I leave this subject, in your, when we talk about the Armenian Genocide, can you just describe what your understanding of that is?
In terms of historically?
Historically, what it is.
It's the genocide that was committed in Turkey against Armenians, and I have read certain documents, historical documents in the past, because this issue I have been aware of for a long time. Everybody in Turkey, they kind of know, but they can't admit they know. Mm-hmm. And it's basically what was available in Turkey was very limited. So my knowledge would be this very, very limited knowledge of what occurred.
Right. So just based upon your background, your experience, in your opinion, is the Armenian Genocide something that's generally accepted as a historical fact?
In Turkey?
Yeah.
In Turkey, no. I mean, in Turkey, nobody can even say they think about it.
What about elsewhere?
In other
Outside
countries,
of
like
Turkey.
outside Turkey, yes. At least in the circles that I've been, it is seen as something that is accepted and that is known as one of those historical events that have taken place.
Like the Holocaust in World War II. Something that people generally regard as
correct.
Something that happened. Are you aware of anyone, any serious scholars and serious people who dispute that those genocides took place?
Throughout the years, because I used to be on the email list of certain student association that had international students, so I would get from the Turkish parts of those communities emails from this professor or that professor from Turkey visiting to give that lecture, but I don't even remember their names of those people. Mm-hmm. Is that a question? Did that answer your question?
Well, I gather from what you're saying that you would get emails possibly from Turkish organizations, Turkish people, where they would dispute that the Armenian Genocide took place?
Absolutely.
Okay. Outside of that group, that cultural group, if you will, are you aware of other objective scholars who dispute that the genocide took place?
No, I'm not.
Why is Roy Blunt in your gallery?
Be one of the individuals who was the recipients of both legally and illegally raised donations, campaign donations from foreign entities.
And what foreign entities?
The ones that I'm aware of, Turkish entities. Yeah. It's just like a network, because those people, they work together, and I don't have expertise in PAC, but there are so many ways that these PAC things can be not very legally distributed from one person's, let's say Mr. Haster's campaign to that individual, or let's say if it's a foreign registered lobbyist, like Livingston can get foreign money but then clean it and then give it through him. It's just so many ways. It's a very complicated maze-like network, and how they get this money cleared and into people, into people's pocket, and also their campaign.
And are you familiar with some of those PACs?
No, not really.
Have you ever heard of the Turkish Coalition USA PAC?
No.
So, I mean, you're aware that the PACs exist, but you wouldn't be able to identify any of them?
Correct, not by names. Correct.
Is it come to your attention that some members of Congress, once they've left Congress, like Dennis Hastert, engage in lobbying for the Turkish government?
Well, Dennis Hastert is known publicly. Stephen Solars is known publicly. He used to be a congressman, and then he became lobbyist as soon as he left, both for Israel and Turkey. Bob Livingston, within a year after he left Congress, he became the paid lobbyist for the government of Turkey, and he's registered under FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act. But then there are people who work for these lobbying firms who are not the top, but they have received their share while they were working, whether they are in Pentagon. One person was Defense Intelligence Agency person, Dana Bauer, and now she works for Bob Livingston. But this individual, Ms. Bauer, did a lot of favors and illegal favors for government of Turkey and others, and then was hired by Livingston and put on a big salary to represent Turkish government. So it's not only top tier, the lobbying firm, but even the people who work for them later and the various layers of those people.
Okay. What about Richard Gephardt? You know who he is, right?
Yes, I do.
And do you have any information about whether or not he took money from Turkish organizations?
No, I just have current information based on what I read, that he joined the lobby firm that represents Turkey, with the same lobby that Mr. Hastert got hired, but I don't have any information.
You heard of a firm called DLA Piper?
Yes.
Law firm? Are you aware of them lobbying for the Turkish government?
Yes.
Let me give you a hypothetical and just get your understanding of what might be going on, because it's particularly relevant to our case. If you have a hypothetical congresswoman, right, from state X, right, her district has no Turkish population to speak of or Armenian population to speak of. She's the largest recipient of Turkish PAC money in the 2008 election cycle. Right? She Livingston and Rogers of the Livingston Group, when they're escorting members of the Turkish parliament to a reception, she receives fact sheets from the Livingston Group talking about Turkish relations, goes to luncheons in honor of the Turkish foreign minister, and she opposes Armenian Genocide resolution, and in fact refuses to even recognize genocide as a historical fact. What's your sense? What does it tell you is going on there?
I object. There's no showing at all that she's got any expertise. It's speculation here. She's asking purely for an opinion. It's totally irrelevant and objectionable.
Based on several that I personally know about in terms of how they conduct and how they behave, those elected officials who are serving the foreign government's interests, I would say that modus operandi that you described is a classic fit of how individuals who happen to owe their and favors to a foreign government, in this particular case Turkey, behave, act, and the kinds of people they associate with. That modus operandi classically matches the individuals I know who were serving Turkish governments and other Turkish entities' interests.
Right. In your view, based on what you know, would it be a reasonable statement to say that that congresswoman is taking money from Turkish interests in part for denying the existence of the Armenian Genocide?
Objection, pure speculation.
say, based on my knowledge, my experience, and what I know, that money, those Turkish entities, lobby organization will not give a penny to anyone unless they have a prior pact with that person of this is what you're going to do for us, and that has been the case at least until 2002.
In your blog, one of the things that you say, you're referring to your lawsuit, I think, but you say, my case also involves espionage activities by several high-level U.S. officials, both elected and appointed. Have we already talked about, for the most part, what you were referring to there?
Some of it.
What have we not talked about that you're referring to in that portion of your blog?
You want to discuss it off the record?
Sure.
You want to take a break off the record?
Going off the record, the time on the video screen is 12:18 and 22 seconds. Here marks the beginning of videotape number 2, taken in the deposition of Ms. Sibel Edmonds. Going back on the record, the time on the video screen is 12:29 and 38 seconds. Please continue.
Okay. We had a pen and during the break discussed it with counsel, and we've just agreed to withdraw that question, and basically because it was too broad and so forth, and it's probably not necessary. Let me ask you a different question, Ms. Edmonds. I understand that you executed an affidavit, or a declaration actually, in this case on August 5, 2009. I'm happy to show it to you. I've got one copy of it. I'm happy to show it to you if you'd like to see it, but I just have some questions about some of the things you said in the declaration. In paragraph 3 of your declaration, you say, I also obtained evidence that the government of Turkey had engaged in practices and policies that were inimical to American interests and had in fact resulted in both the direct and indirect loss of American lives. And do you recall saying that in your declaration?
Yes.
Can you tell me what practices and policies that you were referring to that were inimical to American interests?
There's several. One is practices and operations implemented from mid-1990s, at least until towards end of 2001 in Central Asia and Caucasus there. And these operations and practices included Islamization of the certain segments of those Turkic nations, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan. There are so many of them in that area, and setting up madrasas and bringing in, helping bringing. At the time, they were not referred to as Al-Qaeda until 2001, September 11. They were referred to as plain Mujahideen from Afghanistan and Pakistan into Central Asia, then to Turkey to give them passports, and then funnel them in 1997, 1998 to certain Eastern European countries and the Balkans. And also, I mean, it's very broad. I can go on for a long time about what practices and why they were against the security and the interests of the Americans and the lives.
Okay, well, I don't want to burden you too much, but I would like as complete an answer as you can give us in terms of what you were referring to.
Those operations went until at least until September 2000, and again for those operations they corroborated and worked with certain U.S. persons who were involved in these operations. The other would be the illegally obtaining and selling U.S. military and military technology, and that includes weapons and nuclears, and even from foreign policy related secret or high top secret information, and not only for Turkey, but passing this information to what they refer to as highest bidders, and whoever bid highest, whether these people were nation states or they were just individuals that they were pursuing under counterterrorism after September 11. That would be another example of activities that they were involved that were against the security and the interests of the Americans with cost in terms of lives.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is how do you connect what the Turkish government was doing to the direct and indirect loss of American lives?
One example of this would be with Brewster Jennings, for example, just selling that information and getting that information out in the hands of those foreign entities, including Pakistan. One of the things that the CIA was asked for to right away do damage assessment, and one of the things that came out of it was the damage assessment included damage to asset, both in terms of effectiveness, which was neutralized, and the Brewster Jennings front company for CIA had to be immediately absolved that summer after this information was obtained. But also there were assets and U.S. People who were compromised because of that by the within these foreign governments. That's another. And the third one that I started talking about were helping these individuals come to first Azerbaijan, then Turkey, and these are certain Mujahideen groups starting from 1995, 1996. They were given Turkish passports. In some cases, they were given Azerbaijani passports, and Turkey played a very active and important role in taking these people and moving them into Europe, and some of those people actually ended up in the United States.
Okay. And I think you indicated earlier that the Turkish government, to your knowledge, was providing support to what was once called the Mujahideen.
Correct.
Is now called Al-Qaeda.
Correct.
And has it generally been publicly reported that Al-Qaeda was behind the 9/11 attacks?
Correct.
And that cost American lives?
Correct.
How else has, to your knowledge, the Mujahideen or Al-Qaeda that Turkey was supporting cost American lives?
September 11 and the other category I talked about was the intelligence and identifying assets, or the front companies. The third category that involved narcotics activities, and that was, at least until I left, these Turkish people, and some of them are directly connected to Turkish intelligence and Turkish military in the United States. They played a very significant role in bringing in heroin from sourced from Afghanistan to Turkey, but from Turkey into both the United States, but also directly to Belgium.
So
large quantity, very, very large quantity of heroin.
So if I were to say that if I were a congressperson and I'm taking money from the Turkish government, either directly or indirectly, would it be a fair statement that I'm taking money from a government that has engaged in policies and practices that have cost American lives?
Correct.
Are you familiar with a person named Fethullah Gulen, G-U-L-E-N?
Yes.
Can you tell us who that is?
My information is mainly about his activities and issues that were again done from late 1990s until I left, and then after that it will be known activities here in the United States. He was a religious activist figure in Turkey, and he landed on Turkish government's wanted list and was going to be persecuted for wanting to throw Turkish secular government, replace it with Islamic Sharia kind of type of government. And when he was wanted in Turkey for that, and he was going to go to jail, persecuted, he actually got on the plane and came to the United States, and he was given immediately visa to stay in the United States. And he's been in the United States until now, as far as I know. He has since established more than 300 madrasas in Central Asia and what he calls universities that have a front that is called moderate Islam, but he is closely involved in training like militia Islam, who are brought from Pakistan and Afghanistan into Central Asia, where his madrasas operate. And his organization's net worth is estimated to be around $25 billion. He has opened several Islamic universities in the United States. As I said, it's being promoted under moderate Islam. It is supported by certain U.S. authorities here because of the operations in Central Asia. But what they have been doing since late 1990s is actually radical Islam and militarizing these very, very young, from the age 14, 15, by commandos they use, and this is both commandos from Turkish military, commandos from Pakistani ISI in Central Asia and Azerbaijan, and after that they bring them into Turkey, and from Turkey they send them through Europe to Europe and elsewhere. Up until 1999, the Turkish both government, also paramilitary units in Central Asia, they operated under the groups that call themselves Grey Wolves, ultranationalists, and their method was, assassination of certain leaders in these Central Asian countries and militarizing, but not through Islam. But after this scandal that took place in Turkey, Susurluk scandal, they were no longer supported by certain segments in the United States, and instead some of our people involved in foreign policy, they supported the Islamic movements of Gulen in those Central Asian countries in order to counter Russia as far as the energy sources are concerned in those countries.
How is it, if you know, how is it that Gulen is allowed to be in the United States visa? Let me ask a different question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Is that an individual, based on what you told me, that you would consider a threat to U.S. interest?
100%, absolutely.
And if you know, how is it that he's allowed to be in the United States?
Because part of what he has in terms of a deal with certain segments in the United States is furthering the interests of the people who are interested in the energy sources in Central Asia, and that is the whether it's oil or whether it's natural gas, and basically it's a fight. The best way to describe it is Cold War is not over. It's a continuation of Cold War over those nations, and what we did in Afghanistan in early 1980s with Mujahideen, we have been doing now in Central Asia by using Islam and extremism and these madrasas and Pakistani and Afghani elements to tilt certain stuff in terms of those resources to certain business interests here.
Did you say that Gulen had set up schools in the United States?
Yes.
Are some of those in Cincinnati, if you know?
I'm not sure. I know of some in Texas. I know one in Virginia, but I don't know. They are multiplying and they're spreading rapidly, his Islamic madrasas or universities everywhere. So I haven't kept track of the locations. I don't know.
I assume that, well, let me just ask you, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. If you can't answer, just tell me. Would you tell me who the congresswoman is that we...
I would have, and it wouldn't be because of classification, I don't believe. If in case this congressional person did not bend under the pressure, in case I just don't want somebody's innocent person's reputation destroyed, because I don't know if this person complied with whatever she happened to be blackmailed later. I think
All right, well, that's fair enough. From what you've told me, that the people you've identified, the people that you've talked about today, you're certain about.
Yes.
And what you've told me today about those people is not based on speculation.
No.
All right, give me one moment, please. Are you familiar with reports that Turkish nationals were being supported or acting as suicide bombers against U.S. troops overseas?
Not directly.
Any doubt in your mind that the Turkish government has cost American lives?
No.
Caused the loss of American lives?
No. And not only American lives, even in other countries, and some innocent American lives too, yes.
Any question in your mind, based on everything that you've experienced, that the Turkish government has infiltrated members of Congress to get their support against or their opposition to the Armenian Genocide resolution?
None whatsoever.
I've asked you about members of Congress, but I haven't asked you about staff. Are you aware of senior staff for members of Congress who've also been corrupted by the Turkish government?
Absolutely.
Can you identify them?
The pictures are there.
No. Who is Larry Franklin?
He was an analyst working for Pentagon who was indicted on charges on espionage and passing information to, I believe, Israeli lobby AIPAC. Active participants in ATC, American Turkish Council events, and with these Turkish operatives.
Okay. All right. Anything else? I think that's all I have. I think others may have some questions for you, but I do want to thank you again for your patience and for coming today. I appreciate it.
I have many questions, but I don't know whether you want to take a break there. I suspect the questions may be at least an hour to 2 hours, so you need to estimate whether you want a break now or whatever you want to do, and whatever a council wants to do as well.
Right?
Yeah,
Take a break? Fine.
How long for?
You decide. I'll accommodate whatever you want, and why don't you talk to counsel here, whatever you want to do is
I think
fine.
what's most, first I always ask the witness how much time she wants, then I ask the court reporters, because they're captives here.
Yeah.
So I always try to, yes. Yeah, why don't we go off the record first? That's a good idea.
Going off the record, the time on the video screen is 12:46. Going back on the record, the time on the video screen is 13:32 and 57 seconds. Please continue.
Before we start, I need to go on the record with one question about whether I had provided deposition in the past. I answered that question saying in a business matter, but I forgot. I provided, I was deposed by the Justice Department on a court claim which had to do with my family's pictures that FBI had confiscated and lost. And for that particular case, they deposed me for like 2 or 3 hours. So I just want to go on the record and correct that.
All right, I guess we're beginning the afternoon session. Ms. Edmonds, my name is Mr. Fine, and I'm an attorney who represents Jean Schmidt in her complaint against Mr. Krikorian here before the Ohio Elections Commission. When did you first learn of the complaint that Ms. Schmidt had filed against Mr. Krikorian?
About maybe 10 days, 2 weeks ago. 10 days
And how
ago.
did you learn of that?
I either received an email or call From Mr. Krikorian's office, and I was told that there was this lawsuit that I may be called as a witness.
And who spoke to you?
I spoke with Mr. Krikorian.
And what did he ask you to do?
He asked whether I would be available to be deposed if he and his attorneys for the trial they were going to have would want to seek my deposition.
And what did you respond?
I don't recall exactly, but I said, well, if I get a subpoena or just let me know what it is, then I will speak with my attorneys.
Did Mr. Krikorian explain to you what the complaint was about?
No, he told me there is public information available, and just in general he said that there was a complaint brought against him with the Ohio State Election Commission, and I just went and briefly read a couple of articles that were out there on the case, that the fact that this case existed, to verify it.
Did you actually read the complaint that had been filed before the Ohio Elections Commission?
Do you mean the actual legal complaint?
Yes.
No.
Have you read it at present? When you came here today, had you read the actual legal complaint?
No.
So you don't know what's actually in the complaint, is that correct?
Just some major points that have been public on websites and articles.
So you received, Mr. Krikorian called you about 10 days ago, and your response was that you would be willing to be deposed, or what exactly did you tell him?
Objection
I apologize if you...
answered.
All right, well, I apologize. What is it, did you, I want a clarification. When he asked you would you be deposed, did you say yes?
Asked and answered.
Did anyone inform you before you appeared today that the Ohio Elections Commission had stated it would not enforce the subpoena that had been issued for you to be deposed here?
I read the letter.
So that you knew you didn't have to appear here?
Correct.
Objection calls for legal conclusion.
No, I'm sorry. I would like her opinion here. She's testified about state secrets privilege. She's testified about what genocide means. Those are all legal questions. She can testify about her subpoena.
Excuse me, I'm going on the objection.
Okay, go ahead and answer.
What is the question?
The question is, did you read and understand that the Ohio Elections Commission had stated that they did not intend
Do you
to
have a
enforce
copy?
the subpoena? What? I said, were you under that understanding that the Ohio Elections Commission in the letter had stated to all the attorneys involved in the Department of Justice they did not intend to enforce the subpoena that had been issued for you to be deposed here today?
That's not quite my understanding of the letter.
I think it speaks for
I
itself.
read the letter.
So, in your view, are you here voluntarily?
Objection calls for legal
I know. Are you here voluntarily? I've answered the question. In your view, are you here voluntarily? Did anyone advise you that you were compelled to be here and you would be in contempt of an outstanding decree issued by a government agency if you were not here?
Excuse me, may I just make an objection?
Sure.
Object based on legal, calls for legal conclusion, and now you're asking for attorney-client
No.
communications.
I agree.
That's not... Go ahead.
The witness is not going to answer that question because it's outside the scope of her appearance.
Did you discuss what you would be saying here today to anyone before you arrived here at 10:30 or so?
Can you be more specific?
Yes. Did you talk to somebody about what you would testify to in today's deposition to anybody else? I'm not talking about the substance, just that you did, and identify the people who you spoke about.
I have responded to requests about comments about today, as I don't know. There are going to be questions, and I don't know what questions I'm going to be asked. And after it is over, and before with my attorneys, will be present to make comments.
Did you talk to Mr. Krikorian about what you would be saying today?
To
Mr.
during this,
Krikorian.
you mean what I'm going to say during deposition here?
Yes.
During
Mhm.
this, no.
Did you talk to anybody else about what you would be saying here today. I'm not talking about the substance, just a person that you can identify you spoke to about what you would be saying and what questions you might be confronting.
Just make an objection. I assume you're not referring to her own counsel and asking whether she talked to her.
No, I don't want attorney-client privilege.
I did not know what questions I was going to be asked, so I couldn't talk about my answers.
Let's go back to your hiring by the FBI. I think your testimony is September 15th, 2001?
Around that time.
Okay. Now, were you employed prior to your hiring by the FBI?
Yes.
And where were you employed?
Had my own company with my husband.
Mm-hmm. And what was that company involved in? What business was it?
Technology for retail industry.
And when was that company formed?
About 1996.
1996. Been about 5 years old company. Where was it? Do you know where it was registered?
I believe Alexandria, Virginia.
Mm-hmm. And so what were your tasks at that company?
Marketing.
Mm-hmm. Marketing.
And day-to-day management of people.
Could you be a little more specific? You're saying it's a retail marketing company. Do you offer your services to retailers? Do you actually sell retail items?
Do you have a relevant question?
Yes, I do have a relevant. It's her background, knowing before we went into the FBI exactly what her background in intelligence was.
The object is outside the scope of the direct examination.
The position I had involved providing inventory and supply chain management related software and services, IT services for retail chains.
All right. And were there any employees of the company or just you and your husband?
No, at that time I believe we had 7 or 8 employees.
So is it fair to say the company was involved in providing some kind of software that would enable retailers to do inventory control?
IT services.
IT
yes.
service. Did it have anything at all to do with intelligence collection?
No.
Did it have anything at all to do with lobbying Congress or campaign finance?
No.
How old were you when you were hired by the FBI?
31.
31 years old. And prior to that time, did you consider yourself an intelligence expert? Did you do, just as an avocation, a lot of reading in intelligence collection and counterintelligence and espionage and how covert operations were run?
Objection, compound.
Both in terms of my education and backgrounds and also certain activities that I was involved in still while I was in the United States, in Turkey, and basically the kind of thing that you would consider today is being considered citizen journalism.
Could you be more explicit? What's citizen journalism? I'm not familiar with that concept. If you could explain that concept to me.
Conducting research and write editorial pieces, whether on political situation in Iran or whether the articles I had written or the meetings I have discussed, the journalism's protection of journalists in Turkey under human rights because of the my involvement with Committee to Protect Journalists, political and civil liberties related issues.
So how many articles or books had you published when you were hired by the FBI?
I had not published any books.
Any articles? Any newspaper articles, op-eds, magazine articles?
It's hard for me to tell how many of the stuff I had written have been picked up by international press, whether in Turkey or elsewhere. I have to check. I don't know.
Let me just give you an example. If I write an article, I will submit it and it may be published by the New York Times or the LA Times or something like that. And I know it because I have an arrangement where you submit articles and they tell you it's going to be published or not. Did you have any such arrangement with any publication?
No, I was doing it just mainly for public. The same thing for my activism with the Committee to Protect Journalists, or also working on behalf of sexually abused children in Alexandria with Alexandria Court. I was providing all those services and expertise for free because that was my public work. as a volunteer.
And how many hours of volunteer time would you do per week, would you suggest?
Do you have a time period?
The time period is when you were working on with your company, I guess it began in '96.
My company was established in 1992, and I had other real estate-related businesses. It depends. Between 96 and 99 for Alexandria Court and sexually abused children, I would spend about 15 hours a week working on that case, on researching and writing and reading about political-related issues, including journalism, civil liberties. During that period of time, it's hard to estimate. I would say in the range of maybe 10 hours a week.
What was the title of the position that you applied for employment in the FBI?
Language specialist, contract language specialist for Turkey, and another agreement that said contract language specialist for Farsi.
Were the criteria for that job at all involved any knowledge, expertise in intelligence?
When they advertised and told me about it, no, but upon my hiring...
That's a good enough answer. And
Well,
was
have you
that...
completed your answer?
No.
Oh, did you want... If you think I've interrupted you, if you want to explain further, you just tell me.
Sure. The special agent Dennis Sasher for Turkish counterintelligence and counterterrorism division, he also had a say in the matter, and he wanted to evaluate my political understanding and understanding of Turkish criminal operations in general, including the ultranationalist Grey Wolves, before he gave his okay. And we had a session that was during the time when my contract was being approved, and he made recommendations saying yes, he needed my expertise in the area of Grey Wolves, Turkish ultranationalists. So I don't know how much role it played, his opinion, but that was one of the criteria that he wanted to have for his translator.
Was he the one who made the decision?
I am not sure about how the hierarchy works within the FBI. Was it taken into consideration? I don't know. It was sent to the headquarters, and the headquarters people that I'm not sure who they were.
So did you have a separate interview with him in conjunction with your application?
After my application, yes.
And this was before you were hired, as part of the application process?
No, this was during the time that they were drawing my contract. Because of September 11th terrorist attack, they wanted me to start immediately. So as I was working, they were actually completing my contract. My contract work was not even completed because they wanted me to start immediately.
So that when you were, at the time you were hired, you were not had not been interviewed by anybody at the FBI. This was just based upon your written application. Is that correct? Because there was such an urgency?
Correct. 3 years before that, it was a polygraph test for background check and the filling applications, but I was never interviewed by anyone in the FBI ever.
And how long did it take after you applied before you were hired by the FBI?
I don't recall. In the range of not weeks, maybe a week or 10 days, but I don't recall exactly how long it took.
And does the FBI have the GS level pay compensation schedule?
As far as I know, they don't have it for contractors, they have it for full-time employees.
Were you a contractor or a full-time employee?
I was a contractor.
So what were the terms of the contract? How much were you paid? What was the length of the contract? What were your obligations? Did you actually show up at the premises, or did you work off premises?
I showed up at the premises. And
was it at the J. Edgar Hoover building?
It was Washington Field Office, which is only a few blocks from the FBI headquarters.
Okay, so let's go. Let's go through item by item. What was your compensation rate?
I don't recall exactly. It was in the range of $35 to $40 per hour.
So they paid you on an hourly basis?
Correct.
Did they have a minimum or a maximum number of hours you're supposed to work per week?
They asked me to work 40 hours or more because they needed both my expertise in language and also in the active urgent cases the FBI had. but I could not because I had another job and I was also preparing for my master's degree. So I couldn't give them more than 25, 30 hours a week. And they wanted much more, and they kept asking me, and they also gave me the application and asked me to apply for an agent position with the Quantico because they needed my expertise and language skills. And I got official letters, recommendations recommending me to Quantico because of my knowledge, expertise, and the language skills.
Did you actually apply for a full-time position?
No, they
No.
couldn't pay me enough. I couldn't do that.
So they offered you $35 to $40 an hour, and was it up to you, or did you have to work a minimum number of hours in order to stay as a contractor?
They told me everything was up to me because they couldn't find someone with my expertise and language skills and the background checks. So anything I could do, even if it was 10 hours I could spare, would be great because they wanted me to work for them full-time or overtime.
And was there a term for the contract?
I believe so. I am not sure about the date, whether by the end of that year, because I started in 2001, whether it had to be renewed by January 2002, but there was a time period, correct. I don't remember what it was.
Had the time period expired and you were renewed in April of 2002 when you were let go?
That may have been the case. It was 8 years ago. I don't recall.
And during the period when you were with the FBI, about how many hours per week did you in fact work?
It was not exactly the same way every week because based on my school schedule, based on my family life and work, some weeks I was able to work maybe 30 hours. Some weeks I was able to work about 15 hours. If you were to average it, would be in the range of 20, 25 hours a week.
So that would be about half time. And let's assume 40-hour week would be a standard work week for someone who's employed full-time. You were somewhat like a half-time employee in terms of hours.
She was a contract employee.
I'm a little bit confused when you independent contractor may have different rights and legal obligations as an employee who may get pension benefits and all sorts of health insurance. I worked at the Department of Justice for 15 years, and contractors would not be entitled to those benefits like an employee was. Were you identified in your contract as an independent contractor or an employee for purposes of these benefits and other what you would call subsidiary remuneration for working?
Independent contract.
Do you know how many other independent contractors were working with the FBI about the time you were?
No.
I presume you're talking in her area?
Yeah, in
Language.
in the language, the translation area.
No. I know of several, because there were more than 200, 300 people in that department, combination of full-time and contractors. And my knowledge is limited to the Farsi department and maybe Turkish department because things were changing. Some people would start as contractors and wanted to work full-time. So I can't give you an exact number.
Do you know whether it was customary that other independent contractors worked on an average 20, 25 hours a week? Was you in the mid-range, or did you not know about other independent contract arrangements? You didn't know. You didn't know about any other kind of arrangement. And tell me exactly what were the workplace arrangements for you to perform your work? Did you go to a fixed office at the FBI? Were you given opportunity to choose where you wanted to listen to tapes? How did that work?
I can't give you details because of the area, but it was combination. As far as my main work that I was asked to do because it was top priority outside counterterrorism, it was only Washington field office. Mm-hmm. And that was where from other field offices, they would send information related to Turkish related area, and I would translate. But for certain counterterrorism tasks, I had to go to Philadelphia or New Jersey with the special agents. In some cases, I had to interrogate 9/11 detainees that were shackled in rooms who didn't speak English, and they spoke either Turkish or Farsi or other languages. So it was a combination of different tasks.
So your tasks included not only listening to tapes, but doing interrogation of detainees?
I can't say tapes or not tapes, but in addition to audio, it was written. Also, it included live interviews, going to various field offices and translate interrogation results.
So let me be clear in my own mind. You would translate an answer, but you wouldn't be the one making up the questions for the detainees, or is that inaccurate?
It did, because after September 11th, some of the FBI agents, they didn't know anything, and they were very nice and good to know that they didn't know anything. So they would defer to my expertise to ask the right questions from detainees and some of the immigrants they had rounded up. In some cases, they were certain Kurdish individuals, and even the special agent in charge would take me out and would say, what kind of questions do you think needs to be asked? And I would tell them this and this. And because of the region this person from Turkey had come, it's not a very religious city, so, or this person seems to be from the area and a family background that is ultra-nationalist, so they would ask me to actually draft the questions to trip the detainees and get the right answers. So yes, in fact, the special agents in charge deferred to me to draft questions because they didn't know where Turkey even was.
Can you give me, and I don't want to intrude on intelligence sources and methods, can you
Right.
give me an example of a particular question that you drafted for a detainee?
I think that would be
I
beyond the
can't think
scope.
of
Okay. Withdraw the question. Now, I think that in your testimony this morning, you stated that the allegations that you had made internally to the FBI about various amounts of wrongdoing had all been substantiated by the Inspector General's report. Is that your recollection and statement, that your allegations were all substantiated by the Inspector General?
No, I said the Inspector General's report is public, and you can defer to it, and I believe I was asked about Dickerson's espionage case, and on that particular case I said the report substantiates and states that those allegations were supported by other witnesses and documents or some language to that effect.
Now, were there other allegations that you made that the OIG said were not substantiated?
Objection, foundation, we haven't established that the OIG looked at the allegations.
To your knowledge, did the OIG look at allegations, for example, relating to misuse of travel?
Yes.
It did look at those. And do you recall whether the OIG substantiated your allegations on that score?
I don't recall. It may have been one of those that it was not conclusive or they didn't have other witnesses. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I read the report, but you can bring the report and I can go over that.
Yeah. Would it surprise you if I gave you the report and it said that it was unable to substantiate your travel allegations?
Not at all.
I don't think she knows you well enough to be surprised.
After April, when you were discharged or you weren't renewed by the FBI, what then did you turn to for employment or work, or what then occupied your time?
Time you're referring to?
Well, why don't we? Well, yeah, let's take it year by year, but maybe we can abbreviate it if there's some years that are the same. So, from April in 2002 to the end of 2002, what were you doing after you left the FBI?
I had just begun my case with my court case with my attorney, so most of my time was concentrated on my case, legal case in court, and the necessary research related to my case.
Okay, so you're working on challenging the legality of your discharge, is that correct?
Yes.
And what about 2002 to 2003?
More research and contacting other FBI and CIA and Department of Defense witnesses who could have known about these cases or work in the relevant areas, and my legal case, and starting my organization around that time, which is a nonprofit organization.
Okay, what's the name of the organization?
National Security Whistleblowers Coalition.
Uh-huh. And is that incorporated as a 501c3 organization, or what's the corporate?
It's 501c4.
C4 organization. Correct. And that was incorporated in 2003?
I believe it was end of 2004.
End of 2004?
Correct.
And what is the mission of that particular organization?
It works with intelligence and law enforcement related individuals who have been wrongly treated or retaliated against for whistleblowing in general, and helping them with their cases, legal cases, referring them to attorneys, analyzing their cases, their court cases, their filings, and also coordinating with the media about any release or statements on their cases, developments, and also legislation activities with Congress.
Who are the officers of that organization?
It's myself.
What's your title?
I am the founder and director. Mm-hmm. And I have two senior advisors. One of them is Professor William Weaver, who used to work for NSA, National Security Agency, and now he's a senior professor at University of Texas.
And who's the other senior advisor?
Stephen Elson. Mm-hmm. He was the top-ranking Federal Aviation, FAA, Red Team member on terrorism-related operations.
So you are the director, and then you have two senior advisors. Is there a board of directors?
Yes, and the board of directors is myself and Stephen Elson and William Weaver.
Any others?
No, not that.
Are there any other officers? A treasurer, secretary, anything like that?
That will be me.
That's all you?
Yes.
And is this a stock or a non-stock
Non-stock.
corporation? It's a non-stock corporation. How do you receive your revenues, your receipts? How is it funded?
It's based on volunteer work, and all my members, they all work as volunteers for the organization. So I have 100 workers who work without getting paid.
Do you solicit any contributions?
No. Not right now.
Are the revenues zero?
Correct, because I am independently wealthy at this point, and I don't need to owe anything to anyone, so I don't have to raise funds.
What is the street address of this organization, if it has?
It has a P.O. box.
It has a P.O. box.
Correct.
Is it fair to say it operates out of your house, your residence?
And other members' residence too. And also the coalition organizations. I have several members, partner organizations who have been doing this, so they are also my partners.
And how many volunteers have you had?
It depends with the time period. During congressional legislation activities, sometimes I have 60 who are working with writing articles and working with the media, going to Congress, meeting with various congressional offices. In certain quieter periods, I may have only one. So it just depends.
Mm-hmm. Do you keep a track of how often your organization is quoted in the media, through Google or otherwise?
We have a press section which keeps track of it. Again, certain period when we have high-level congressional activities, which we had a lot in end of 2005, was almost daily, which would be Congressional Quarterly, Federalist, and all these documents. And then there will be a period that will be quiet period, like any other NGO.
Mm-hmm. What about getting articles that the organization has written published in the media? Does that happen?
Yes, I was published by the Journal of Atomic Scientists on nuclear black market and nuclear whistleblowers, and that was published, I believe, in 2006. And I was published together with my partner, Professor William Weaver, I believe is publication on intelligence-related whistleblowers. Correct.
So you began the organization, you think, in 2004. About how many hours per week do you devote to this organization?
It depends. Certain period.
Give a range.
Totally depends. Again, during congressional activities, I may spend 70 hours a week, and during some quiet time, it may end up being 10 hours. It just depends.
Now, other than this organization that you are the director of, have there been any other employment, work-related activities that you've undertaken since you were discharged?
Continuing my company together with my husband as a consulting company for retail.
So
until now.
Does that exhaust the universe of your work activities? You worked as a consultant on the retail and inventory. You were running. You were the director of the Whistleblowers 501c4, and does that exhaust your work-related activities?
No, it doesn't, because I spend a lot of time both researching and writing, not only for my websites but for my blog, and also working with individuals from the intelligence community on issues of interest.
And could you identify those particular issues that have been of interest to you? Let's start out with the most recent year. How about the year 2009? What have been the intelligence activities, national security activities that have been interest to you that you've pursued?
Civil liberties related issues, including the misuse and abuses of state secrets privilege. The recent congressional activities on legislation for whistleblowers, for inclusion of national security whistleblowers who are currently not included in the legislation or the markup. It has been on the general mainstream media trend of not reporting on certain areas and issues, whether it's related to national security whistleblowers or certain geographic regions or certain cases like this, for example. Like this would be something I will be working on in the next few months.
Since you left the FBI, has your area of interest continued with regard to foreign governments corrupting the State Department, Defense Department, and members of Congress to get weapons material, nuclear material, bribery, and that kind of thing? Has that been an area that you've pursued since you left the FBI?
It's not only that I have pursued, it's been because of my background, a lot of sources and people have started contacting me, and I have gotten to see more documents and newspaper articles, etc., on these areas that I didn't have before the time or interest in.
Now, you testified that the government of Turkey has corrupted the U.S. Congress and the State Department, etc. What other countries do you know have also corrupted the United States Congress, State Department, Defense Department, National Security Council through bribes, blackmail, or otherwise?
I think she identified specific individuals, not the entire institution.
No, she identified the government of Turkey. That question was raised, the government of Turkey, and she said the government of Turkey had corrupted the United States Congress, amongst others.
So the question is, what
other countries other than Turkey have corrupted the U.S. government and various its organs based upon, you testified most of it is money, but sometimes it's blackmail. But what other governments have also accomplished that feat?
I object to the breadth of the question. The other questions were based on specific individuals.
No. Answer the question, please.
Based on my information, I had knowledge and have knowledge to particular activities that was done in conjunction together jointly with those entities, the Turkish entities, including the ones connected to Turkish government, that were working and with Israeli lobby groups, and certain people from the diplomatic community of Pakistani embassy that were operating out of Washington D.C. together with those Turkish entities.
So your testimony is under oath here that the government of Pakistan and the government of Israel worked in conjunction with the government of Turkey to give money and to blackmail Congress people and people in the government in order to get things favorable from the U.S. in their foreign policy.
I said individual connected to those offices.
Now, let's go back. When you testified earlier, I think, to one of Mr. Mannion's questions, you did use the word government of Turkey had corrupted the Congress and the establishment and the executive branch through money and blackmail and otherwise. You used the word government of Turkey. You didn't identify, oh, it was only the prime minister or people in the embassy's office. You used the word government of Turkey. Now I'm asking you, are you also saying that the government of Pakistan, the government of Israel also worked in collaboration with the government of Turkey to corrupt members of Congress and the executive branch establishment through money or blackmail in order to get foreign policy favors?
I object. I believe you're taking her testimony somewhat out of context.
I'm repeating, I know the word government of Turkey was used. I'm not taking it out of
The word
context.
government of Turkey may have been used, but I don't recollect it being used in the exact context you're using.
Yeah. Please answer
My
the question.
Individuals connected working with these governments in their official capacity.
Well, you're not answering my question. I'm asking you to use, as you use the word government of Turkey, in the same sense that you understood government of Turkey when you used it in answering Mr. Mannion's question, to apply that same understanding in Pakistan and Israel as to whether or not the government of Pakistan and the government of Israel collaborated with the government of Turkey in corrupting U.S. Congress people and members in the executive branch of the United States government to win favors in the foreign policy or national security arena.
Objection to the form of the question unintelligible. Can you give a simple question, please?
Majority of the objection. I can't understand the question.
When you testified earlier that the government of Turkey was corrupting the U.S. Congress and the executive branch officials by money, bribes, and blackmail, what by the government of Turkey?
Certain individuals and operatives with official capacity, and that official capacity being the employees and members of Turkish government.
So you did not mean the government of Turkey in the sense that there was an official government of Turkey policy that involved bribery. You meant that these could have been rogue elements that weren't operating under the aegis of the Prime Minister's office and doing this on their own for their own personal greed or pecuniary benefit.
Are you identifying a specific person or the totality?
Well, I'm just clarification between her understanding of individual members who belong to a government. Take, for example, in the United States, you can have one individual who is subject, who's found guilty of bribery in the executive branch. It doesn't necessarily mean that that individual is operating under the aegis and the sponsorship of the President of the United States and the government. It might be or it might not. He could be rogue or it could be in collaboration with the government itself, the policy of the government. You understand that distinction, Ms. Edmonds? All right. Now I'm trying to take that distinction and applying it to your use of the word, the government of Turkey is bribing and blackmailing members of Congress and the executive branch to doing favors in its foreign policy and national security arena. Were you thinking in the government of Turkey in the sense that these individuals that you're referring to were acting at the behest and the aegis and the sponsorship of the Prime Minister and his government, or were they acting as rogue elements? Which one were you referring to?
I object to the question. For example, I don't think the United States government itself can engage in unlawful conduct. Individuals of the government may be, and the government in itself may be viewed as being engaged in illegal conduct, but a country cannot engage. This country cannot engage in illegal conduct.
Yeah,
so
governments are there, but
excuse me, you have a problem. The perception is when the President of the United States does something illegal, the government has done something illegal, and so I think it's difficult to try to pull them apart. You're asking this individual to speak on behalf of actions taken on behalf of a government or taken on behalf of the representatives of the government, and I believe it's beyond her capacity to give you the specific answers you're looking for.
Can I make an objection?
Of course.
I feel like these questions are very argumentative, they're very convoluted. I mean, I feel like you're just making an argument and asking the witness a question which is unintelligible. And it seems like you're here defending the government of Turkey and not cross-examining you.
No, I'm responding to actually something that's in the complaint rather than something that's totally irrelevant, because one of the charges that Mr. Krikorian makes against Jean Schmidt in his various campaign literature that's subject to the complaint is that the government of Turkey gave money to Jean Schmidt. And the government of Turkey, government-sponsored PACs gave money. And that's the phraseology he uses, government of Turkey, government, not individuals. And that's why I'm trying to get your assessment when you testified to Turkish government what you meant by it.
Okay, I'm going to object. I think you're mischaracterizing. Why don't you show the witness the complaint instead of characterizing it? Because I think you're mischaracterizing it.
All right, I will
show her the complaint. There's a copy right here.
Yeah. I'll show her the exhibits, which is perhaps more relevant
Show her
here.
your client's complaint, which you just characterized.
This is why don't we do this? You read through, take your time, the complaint and exhibits to the complaint that form the gist of the outstanding petition, and then we can ask you a question.
Is there a specific question, or just supposed to just read this?
Sure.
Is this the whole...
There are additional exhibits, but those aren't part of the questions. If you want to show her your copy, that's...
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I just need to give the witness an opportunity to do it. And then, do you want to go off the record while she reviews the exhibit?
Yeah, that probably makes a lot of sense.
Going off the record, the time on the video screen is 14:15 and 46 seconds. Going back on the record, the time on the video screen is 14:27 and 20 seconds. Please continue.
Ms. Edmonds, let me try to accelerate this. I believe on one of the exhibits, on the sentence I underlined, there's the statement to the effect, and I think Mr. Krikorian clarified this in his own deposition, that Jean Schmidt had received money from the government of Turkey. Do you have any personal knowledge that Jean Schmidt received money from the government of Turkey?
No.
No. You'll see also, I believe, on some of the, I think there are two other places in that exhibit I underlined, and there's the statement that Jean Schmidt received money from Turkish government-sponsored PACs. Do you have any personal knowledge as to whether or not Jean Schmidt received any money from Turkish government-sponsored PACs?
You're asking specifically about
Jean Schmidt,
and
yes.
this thing? No.
Okay, that's enough. Now, I want to go back to the time frame in which I think you were identifying for Mr. Mannion those members of Congress who your judgment was had received bribes. And you had mentioned Mr. Blunt and Mr. Hastert and Mr. Burton and some others. Now, was your knowledge based upon information you had acquired prior to your leaving the FBI?
Her knowledge would have been based on information outside of the scope of her employment. That's how this deposition was set up.
Okay, but number one, your knowledge was not related to anything you learned in your FBI employment, but I'm also asking whether or not that knowledge outside your government employment was acquired prior to your leaving the FBI.
Well, let me rephrase it. There's much of what she learned while she was employed in the government that she happened to also learn through additional sources after she left the government. So if there was a corroborating source that she learned it from, whether or not she learned it in the government, she would have revealed it here.
Right, but I guess this is what I'm trying to clarify, is the time frame in which the information related. That is, were they bribed in 2001, 1998, or whatever? So what I'm asking is the information you acquired, whether it was corroborating information in the public record or not, relating to the bribery, were the bribes, the blackmail, in a time frame that was prior to April of 2002 when you left the FBI?
I'm going to object to the question. I think it's really mangled. I don't know what specific things you're talking about. You keep compounding things and conflating them.
The question is very simple.
No, it's not.
Okay, I'll go back.
Let me just finish.
Right.
I would ask, you've been doing this for your entire cross-examination, I would ask that you just ask simple, direct questions about specific things, not combining all the things you've talked about,
Was that based upon information? Break it down. I just want to have a clear record.
Let's take one of those, Mr. Burton, you'd said received bribes from the government of Turkey. What years were those bribes received?
My information that is limited for the time period 1997 until January 2002.
Is that also true for all the others that you've identified for Mr. Mannion, that time frame?
All the others is a very broad.
No, I'm saying the ones that you had were on your blog. The ones, I think those were the ones that you related to Mr. Mannion. There were the pictures there that he was recounting. Mr. Hastert, Mr. Blunt, and I think there were some others there that I assume that you had identified on your blog.
Again, same I mean, I went through them one by one.
Okay, I'll go through them one by one.
I think that's what you should do.
All right, let's go through the first. So, Mr. Burton, your information related to the time frame 1997 up to the January of 2001. Mr. Blunt, what was the time frame of the information relating to bribery?
Mr. Blunt, to the best of my recollection, the same time period.
Mr. Hastert.
To the best of my recollection, to the same time period.
Stephen Solars.
The best of my recollection would be 1999 till January 2002.
Mr. Gephardt, Richard Gephardt.
And I'm sorry, I have to correct it. Mr. Solars, I'm referring to in his capacity as his firm. He was not an elected representative during those. So we're not talking about congressional. This is talking about
The people that you had.
Okay, and that would, their activities of receiving or those kinds of activities that in the context that I explained for Mr. Stolar's role would be 1999 until January 2002.
And Mr. Richard Gephardt?
I don't have any information on Mr. Gephardt.
Having received any government
No.
bribes or otherwise?
No.
Do you have any information relating to bribery and blackmail of incumbent members of Congress that were after January of 2002?
You mean direct information?
Yes, based personal knowledge.
No.
Do you know who Jean Schmidt is?
Limited to the news articles I have come across.
Before Mr. Krikorian spoke to you about 10 days ago, did you know anything about Jean Schmidt?
Very small amount that had to do with some computers in 2006 that had a glitch during election because it was on the headlines, but no, I didn't.
Did you know anything about the Turkish Coalition of America until it was raised in a question by Mr. Mann?
Either that or maybe in the past 1 year I may have received some of these emails that this organization sends on supporting Turkish, vote against Turkish genocide, because I get those from a student association. The name may have been there. I don't recall.
Do you know anything other than what you've just described here about known as TCA?
TCA, yes, I don't know anything.
You don't know who the officers are?
You work with them.
I think I'm Turkish American Legal Defense Fund.
Okay, then, all right, I don't.
But you would know that I work with them just because I told you. You didn't know it independently from me informing you. Is that correct, or did you know that independently?
Your name just came up in associated with that organization. Maybe it was in the article I read in Politico, but no.
Okay. I think you testified in the direct examination about state secrets and how that had been, the state secrets privilege had been employed in some of the litigation that you had initiated to obtain dismissal, I think, of your case, and then blocking, is it Motley Rice having access to a deposition. Now, state secrets privilege is a legal doctrine. Have you read Supreme Court cases that identify what the elements of a state secret is?
I have read so much on state secrets privilege and so many court documents. Are you talking about any recent Supreme Court?
Well, how about Doe versus Webster?
No, I haven't.
You haven't read that? Have you read Reynolds versus the United
Yes.
States? Totten versus the United States?
Yes. Again, I read all those during my court case, when my court case was active. So it would be 3-4 years ago, mainly those cases.
Mm-hmm. Have you testified on the pending legislation on state secrets? I think Jerry Nadler is the chief sponsor. Have you testified for any of the congressional committees considering state secrets legislation?
No. I have to qualify that the congressional members have a kind of a gag order on them because of the retroactive classification and order they got from Justice Department during, I believe, Attorney General Ashcroft. So they don't even know if they can have me there.
Well, I've testified at the hearings, and they don't get into anything like that. It's just what the law ought to be, but that's aside from, just let's move on. Have you put in a fair amount of, did you study lobbyists and lobby groups and how they operate in Washington?
I have been reading.
Read about how lobby groups operate in Washington?
Depends on what I have read.
Give me the books that you've read. And
I
don't let them put a time frame. I don't want it to be endless. Say since you left the FBI.
Since I left the FBI, it has been mainly articles published both by mainstream media and also alternative media on at least the cases that have come up, whether it is on APAC or the conflict of interest case, such as the recent case that had to do with the defense contractors being related to a particular congressman, Morta, and how that lobbying caused. So it would be mainly mainstream media related article of the consequences of the foreign lobbies and the conflict of interest between certain business sectors lobby and congressional relations.
Have you ever read the Foreign Agents Registration Act?
Several years ago, yes, and I read it, I believe, at the Department of Justice's website. This would be around maybe 2006 or 2007.
And what's your understanding of when you have to register as a foreign agent?
Again, it's been a while. It was my understanding that if you worked and you lobbied on behalf of that foreign government.
If you're a lawyer, do you have to? If you represent a foreign government as a lawyer, do you have to register?
I don't know.
What about the Lobbying Disclosure Act? Are you familiar with that statute?
Not as an expert and someone very familiar with the technical language, but a very broad kind of understanding when I was reading, again, with just the regular mainstream media and alternative media articles published on the topic.
Do you have any personal knowledge of the campaign that was run by Mr. Krikorian in the 2007-2008 election cycle, in which he ran as an independent against Jean Schmidt in the 2nd District of Ohio? If I use the word a government-sponsored political action committee, what is your understanding of a foreign government-sponsored political action committee? What does that mean to you? In specifics, does that mean the foreign government is giving money to that political action committee or other things of value?
I'm not sure.
Does it have any meaning to you at all?
Government-sponsored political action committee.
Mm-hmm.
Guess, again, I don't know. I haven't read the description or definition of that particular terminology. But the meaning to me would be it would be either by a commerce slash a business sponsored, and doesn't mean necessarily money, or the lobbying and the advocacy for by a certain group.
If it's not money, what are the other things that come to mind to you?
I am not sure.
But money would be the most prominent thing that would come to mind, or not? Other things compete with money as to what it means?
I guess that depends on which country, foreign country you're dealing with.
Dealing
and what
with
is
Turkey,
the
if it's
trend.
Turkey, if it's a Turkish government sponsored.
If it's a Turkish-sponsored PAC, and up until, let's say, year 2002, January, it meant certain things. I don't know what it has meant since then, but up until 2002, it would have meant something.
And what was that?
When their donations are made to a certain PAC or a lobbying, well, during that time period, it was only done to PACs or PACs that are related to congressional candidates who had made covertly promises and deals, because they have overt promises. Yeah, I will be promoting commerce, etc., but covertly to further certain interests or agendas of certain business and entities. And sometimes, or most of the times, those were hand in hand with the certain government agents, the foreign government agents here.
So that was giving money prior to 2002. Turkish-sponsored PACs would be giving money to the PACs to give the money to the members of Congress?
No, you asked for the reason. You said, why would they give? And I
No, I'm
said,
not. If I spoke that, it was inartful. I'm not asking why they gave. I'm just saying a Turkish government-sponsored PAC prior to 2002, I think that was the time frame you're referring to, meant, in your understanding, that the government of Turkey gave money to the PAC in order to give to members of Congress. I'm not asking what they thought in exchange.
Right, and they did so overtly and covertly. For example, sometimes the money in form of a suitcase of cash would go to a certain person or a business entity, and from that business person entity would be divided to 10 people in order to not trace the origin of that money to that particular Turkish government agent or a Turkish government group. So they did it in a step, so it just depends.
So it would be like they would use a middleman. All right, the origin of the money is the government of Turkey. They give it to, looks like a private business or entity, and they tell them, you then turn around and maybe give it to another middleman. So there's some kind of chain of custody that separates the government of Turkey directly from the end user, but the origin of the money is in Turkey.
Or a government entity associated with the...
A government-owned corporation or enterprise or something.
Or it can be an entity, let's say it can be a military attaché person that is doing that, is a Turkish military attaché, and that person is, that military attaché person is employed by the Turkish government, and suddenly says, okay, I have a suitcase of $45,000, and how are we going to distribute that? And let's say they have a candidate in mind, there are ways they did it, and that would be one way would be they get some of that cash, they get the citizens, Turkish people who are citizens here, they write, they give them cash, and they have each one of those citizens write some amount like under $200, let's say, to a particular candidate. Even though that money didn't come from those U.S. citizens, the money came from Turkish embassy, and as long as it was under 200, they can get 500 Turkish people, each one write $200. So that's one of the ways they do it.
Okay, that answers my question. If a PAC gave campaign contributions to a member of Congress who was a sponsor of the Armenian Genocide resolution, then you're pretty certain that would not be a PAC that got any money from the Turkish government?
Objection. Foundation.
Excuse me?
Foundation.
Oh, I think that you testified earlier in response to Mr. Marino's question. I think he was asking you to speculate a little bit that one of the ways in which the Turkish government was able to obtain promises and influence against which you identified was a concern, was that they would invariably extract ironclad promises from members who were going to receive their money, that they would vote in particular ways. They would do the bidding. They didn't leave that open to chance, so that they would not give money to a candidate or to a member of Congress who wasn't pledged to oppose the genocide resolution. So I'm really asking, I guess I can ask it in similar language, that is, if a PAC did give money to members of Congress who were sponsors of the genocide resolution, then is it your conclusion or opinion that PAC was not receiving any money from the Turkish government?
Objections, incomplete hypothetical.
That would be impossible to guess, because Armenian genocide was one criteria, but there were other criteria also, and that included, as I said, the criteria that were related to the weapons purchase from the United States, and which general in Turkey is going to get a cream of this thing, and who's going to get what money. So there were, as I said, the Armenian genocide was one of 3 or 4 criteria that they considered and honored in order to give money, or not only money, it was also other ways of giving position in a certain company to the son of certain congressional person, or keeping certain things secret, or etc. So that was one of them. Armenian genocide bill was one of them. So maybe I'm saying in a hypothetical situation, that particular candidate may be a sponsor of Armenian genocide, but on the other 3 criteria that is extremely important, or 2 other criteria, that person or candidate may be doing important, very important, giving an important favor to this. So I can't tell you. Just depends on the situation, or that candidate may be in a or incumbent maybe on a very sensitive committee in Congress or Senate, and in the position of obtaining some very important classified information they may want. So it can be other things under that scenario that you just discussed.
Right. So they look at a variety of criteria, and even if they don't satisfy all of them, they may get some money because they view some of the issues as more important than others of concern to Turkey. Okay.
Take a short break for 1 second.
Sure.
Going off the record, the time on the video screen is 14:48 and 7 seconds. Going back on the record, the time on the video screen is 14:49 and 32 seconds. Please continue.
Ms. Edmonds, have you ever been called as an expert witness in any litigation?
No.
Have you ever been called to testify at a committee hearing before Congress?
Yes.
And what hearings were those?
I don't recall. They're all available on the House website. And I have had several testimonies during hearings on whistleblower legislation. And also, I believe it was House Government Reform Committee that I was providing testimony on for civil liberties related issues, excessive secrecy and classification. I believe that was a title 2005. You have to look at the website for house.gov. I don't remember.
I think you did testify about your knowledge of the Armenian Genocide, the resolution. Have you ever read the Genocide Convention of 1948?
No.
Have you ever read the U.S. Genocide Statute?
No.
Do you know what the elements of genocide are?
Not technically.
So you don't know what the elements of genocide are. Do you know whether or not the United Nations has ever voted a resolution that endorsed the Armenian genocide claim?
No.
Do you know whether Great Britain Parliament has ever endorsed the Armenian genocide claim?
I am not sure about Great Britain.
That's the only question I'm asking right now.
No.
How about the government of Sweden?
I don't know.
Do you know the author Bernard Lewis?
Yes.
He's at the University of Princeton, correct?
Yes.
He's written voluminously about the Middle East. Is that your understanding?
I can't make objective any comments answer about Mr. Bernard.
I'm just. Have you read? I'm only
Yeah,
asking
it
about
is.
things
Yes.
in the public domain.
Yes. Correct.
He's been a White House consultant.
Yes.
Do you consider him a person of stature in the community of scholars?
No.
You don't commit. Why do you not place him into that category?
I have my own personal reasons. They're based on my personal opinions.
And why is that? Why is it that you do not view him in the category of scholars in the Middle East?
Because I consider objectivity as one of the criteria for being considered scholarly and reputable, and I don't believe he is he's not agenda driven. I believe he is not objective. That's my personal opinion.
If you were hiring faculty at the University of Princeton, would you not hire Bernard Lewis as a scholar?
Objection.
I don't know. Depends on the situation.
Speculation.
She's speculated on whole sorts of things. Are you aware of the outstanding trials in Cambodia for the atrocities of Pol Pot?
Not the details.
Is it your view that what Pol Pot did was genocide?
Was it genocide?
Mm-hmm.
I consider it a genocide.
Do you know that, in fact, there have been none of those who are on trial have been accused of genocide?
That they haven't been on trial?
No, they're on trial right now.
Correct.
They're not being charged with genocide.
Okay. Life is not
Now, I want to go through a list, and maybe we can add more, of the persons that you identified to Mr. Mannion that had committed crimes, either related to bribery or stealing classified information or otherwise. And my list was Mr. Roy Blunt, Mr. Tom Lantos, Mr. Dennis Hastert, Mr. Dan Burton, Mr. Stephen Solars, Mr. Robert Livingston. Are there other current or former members of Congress, to your knowledge, who have also committed crimes that have not been, none of these members have been prosecuted, but have also committed crimes that have not been prosecuted?
Based on definition, possibly one.
And who is that?
The lady we just talked about, Congresswoman.
But that would be the only addition you would make?
Based on my knowledge, with certainty, yes.
Now, what about, I think it's fair to say, in the executive branch, you identified Mark Grossman as someone who's guilty of a crime. Are there any other individuals in the executive branch who you know are also guilty of crimes of bribery, selling or leaking classified information to obtain a benefit? Or
I think the
otherwise?
witness identified activity she believed to be criminal, not that they were guilty of criminal activity. There's a difference.
Well, if there's criminal activity, somebody has to commit the crime. It can't be a crime in the abstract. You have to have a defendant who does it.
Guilt is a legal determination. It's not whether you committed an act that's wrong.
I understand. I'm asking, bribery, I assume, when you mean bribery, you're not using that in a colloquial sense that means something that you didn't like. Bribery is a specific elements of crime. Just like if you accuse somebody of murder, you don't get to decide what murder is. That's defamatory if you don't have any foundation for saying that, even though murder is a criminal concept. You had identified Mark Grossman as someone who was guilty of basically
He's not used the
crime.
word guilty. Please rephrase.
I also-
Engaging in criminal
And I
activity.
didn't identify, I said that name has been identified by other sources who have spoken to the media, and media has put forth that name. And yes, it's on the website, his picture is there. But I did not make any specific allegations about, or I haven't given a specific information about Mr. Grossman. I said he has been identified to be the one. And when I was asked, is it correct? I said yes.
Okay. Personal information that Mr. Grossman has committed criminal activity.
Yes.
And that's based on your personal knowledge.
Yes.
Now, are there any other current or former members of the executive branch, and let's take the time frame 2001, 2009, that you have personal knowledge have engaged in criminal activity?
I can't cover time frame after January 2002.
Okay. Let's take the time frame 1997 up to 2002. Now, other than Mr. Grossman, do you have any other direct personal knowledge of executive branch officials, meaning executive branch in the United States, who were involved in criminal activity?
Yes.
And could you identify those?
My website identifies them by pictures.
Sorry, I don't, not familiar with your website. Could you just enumerate the names
Sure,
for me?
it is www.
No, I just would like the names of the individuals, not the website.
I haven't named them. I have their pictures. I haven't named those individuals. Their pictures, though. And if you were to ask me and name them yourself and ask me questions about them, then I will answer you.
No, I'm asking you, can you identify the pictures on your website?
Yes, I can identify.
Okay, what are those pictures that you have on your website? Identify those pictures on your website.
I don't have any.
Who are executive branch officials who you say have been involved in criminal activity.
I don't have it in front of me.
You don't remember what's on your website? You're under oath. You don't know
Yes.
the pictures of the people who are on your website?
Yes, I do, and I
Then
can
I'd like you
point
to, I'm just asking you, just tell me who they are.
I have to look at them right now in front of me in order to identify each one of those individuals.
Do you have any name other than Mark Grossman that comes to mind?
Yes.
Name that person.
Yeah.
Going off the record, the time on the video screen is 14:58 and 13 seconds. Going back on the record, the time on the video screen is 14:59 and 39 seconds. Please continue.
We have objected to the question as it is formed would reveal classified information.
Is the picture you're maintaining on your website classified information?
The picture's not classified, but asking information related to why the picture is on the website would be.
So getting to the end here, if I visit your website, your testimony is that the people whose pictures are there on your website have been involved, to your personal knowledge, in criminal activity.
No, she won't answer that question.
The answer is yes.
No, the witness will not answer that question as it relates to classified information.
I'll just visit your website. I think that's all.
Just a couple of follow-ups and we'll be done. I wanted to go back to your some of the questions Mr. Fine asked you about contributions, government-sponsored PACs, et cetera. Back to that category. You had answered the question, I think, in part by saying there's covert support and there's overt support. In your experience, for example, you said you'd never heard of had not really heard of the Turkish American Council or
Coalition.
I'm sorry, which one?
Coalition.
The Coalition. Right. Turkish Coalition of America. That was the one you had not.
Because there are so many abbreviations. It's so hard, but I don't.
Okay. And I think earlier when you testified, you said you hadn't heard about the Turkish American Heritage PAC necessarily.
Again, they have so many names and abbreviation and talk that I don't recall now, but I may have known. I just can't. I don't recall it right now. Specific names of various PACs because there are so many different kinds that they set up.
And you described, I think what you were describing when you were describing the covert kinds of support, situation where an official has a suitcase full of cash, gives it to 10 people who are not government officials, and those 10 people make a contribution separately to
Correct.
the PAC. The PAC then gives money to whoever, right?
Correct.
And that would be something that would be considered the covert.
That was one of the covert
One of the ways to do it.
right.
And so you wouldn't expect, if that happened, for example, with the Turkish American Heritage PAC,
Right.
some Turkish official gives a suitcase full of cash, 10 different people, they make contributions to the PAC. You wouldn't expect the PAC to put it on their website that they got money from the Turkish government.
They
right?
never do. I
No.
mean, up until, based on my knowledge, experience till 2000,
Yeah,
they
no,
don't.
right. If they were doing that, you wouldn't have to listen to their phone conversations and figure out what we would need counterintelligence operations, right?
Objection, that's listening to phone conversations.
And in fact, if the treasurer of the PAC submitted an affidavit and said our PAC is not, never has been sponsored by the Turkish government and has never received any money or non-monetary support from the Turkish government, or as we know, that treasurer may not even know that the contributions came in from
Right,
those
or
10
if-
people, right?
Correct. Or in some cases, the treasurer may be the key person involved carrying out these illegalities.
Right.
Let's say it was in Chicago.
Would you expect them to give us an affidavit saying, yes, we got money from the Turkish government through covert sources?
I wouldn't think so, no.
Right. If they would do that, you wouldn't have to review their telephone conversations. Right? You said that, I want to ask you a kind of personal question, if you don't have to answer if you don't want. You indicated that you're independently wealthy. And I assume that what you mean by that is you don't really have to work in a day-to-day job if you don't want to. You have sufficient means that you don't necessarily have to do that.
Currently,
Okay.
currently, my
Now-
husband and I, yes, we worked very, very hard for 18 years, and before that he did. So, yes, we don't have to right now go and work full time.
Now, I got the impression from your testimony that when you went to work for the FBI back in 2001, that money was not the motivating factor for you.
Absolutely not.
They offered you a chance to be an FBI special agent.
With the highest level GS, the moment I graduated from Quantico, because of the language abilities and the master's degree, they just put all the stuff which would have qualified me to start as GS-12 or GS-13 versus the GS-8 that regular agents would start. That was part of the offerings they were giving me as part of this package, yes.
No. It would be fair to say the FBI found you to be a fairly valuable resource right away?
Absolutely, and they have several commendation letters from all the agents. These are field agents that I worked with, and they all submitted commendation letters, and most of them would request specifically me for their own projects, yes.
Right. And then when the issues that got you, let's say, crosswise with the FBI, where they terminated your contract, the the Office of OIG, actually investigated, determined that they really didn't pay enough attention to your allegations, and that they were substantiated, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Fine asked you about the travel allegations, but the core allegations about Ms. Dickerson, they were substantiated.
Correct, they were all substantiated.
And so if it wasn't money, then why did you go to work for the FBI in the capacity that you did? What was it that motivated you to do that?
One reason only. Immediately after September 11, the FBI, the Justice Department, they kept coming on TV, radio, and they said they were desperately in need of language specialists in these areas because we didn't know if we were going to have other attacks, etc. And it just was like going and enlisting with the army or whatever. If there is a war and you're attacked and somebody attacks you. So I just joined in order to do something as a citizen to contribute because I did have those languages and the education, the background. So I was serving the FBI during the crises and the need, this so-called desperate need that they had.
So you had skills and experience that would be helpful to your country, right?
Correct.
And out of love of this country, you offered those skills and experience, correct?
Correct.
When you reported to your superiors at the FBI that you detected a case of attempted espionage, in essence, why did you do that? Why did you tell them about that?
Because I was, first of all, obligated for that security clearance and that employment. One of the things that I signed, I basically pledged to was if somebody tries to recruit me, if I come across suspicious activities or recruitment and that kind of an incident, the first thing I had to do was to go and report it to my superiors and the security office. So I not only that I believed that I had to go and do it, I was obligated to do it.
Right. And did you feel morally that, out of loyalty to your country, that you should report it?
Absolutely.
And when you, after you left the FBI and you testified before congressional committees, testified before the 9/11 Commission, etc., why were you doing that? Why were you telling them all the things you were telling them?
Because all along, and that even includes my court cases, the government used the state secrets privilege and classification to cover up operations and activities by Turkish entities, some of them governments, some of them rogue elements, and certain criminal U.S. persons that had nothing to do with national security of the people in the United States, that had nothing to do with the national interest. It only had to do with covering up these criminal activities because of those high-level people and officials and other people who benefited from it. And in fact, it jeopardized, and still does, American security, not having those people accountable and not pursuing those people criminally. And that was not only my belief, it was the belief of all the agents I work with who work on Turkish counterintelligence. Even when Department of Justice was told by State Department to shut down their investigation, this particular operations, these agents covertly continued it. Okay? And I have been through these commissions and going and testifying before Congress inside a SCIF, secure compartmentalized facilities. And even my court case was to put this information forward and force the issue so that it would be publicly addressed. First, American people would know what's been happening and what this information involved, not national security, not their security interests, just the opposite. And second, it would be truly pursued and investigated and prosecuted. So you would see accountability, not only ending it, but also we would see accountability, because treason or these kinds of criminal activities, these are serious crimes. And these were the beliefs of the agents I worked with, and some of these agents have talked with the members of the media. That's why you have seen some of these articles. They haven't gone by one or two sources. They have gone with multiple sources, and it hasn't happened to date. But that was the reason, that has been the reason why I have pursued it by all the expenses and exhaustion through courts, Congress, Inspector General's office, basically every legal available channel that was out there.
Have you written any books?
I'm in the process of writing a book, and I am also writing a book, academic book, which would be studied at Johns Hopkins and Georgetown University with Professor Weaver, called Shoot the Messenger, that has to do with whistleblower legislation, specifically national security whistleblowers and intelligence whistleblowers, which will be published at the end of 2010 by Kansas University Press.
And Professor Weaver, I think you said he previously worked for NSA, is that correct?
Correct, long time ago, 30 years ago.
Can you tell us what his position with NSA was?
He was a member of Air Force, and it has something to do with, I don't know, it was highly classified, that had to do with communication, which is obvious for NSA.
Mr. Fine asked you about certain countries and whether they had passed resolutions recognizing the Armenian Genocide. Do you recall that?
Correct.
Have some countries actually passed resolutions
Yes, for
recognizing?
example, France did that. And it was important because France was also threatened that their relationship with Turkey would end, and they were going to be regretting it, and they were going to become destitute, etc. And they didn't. They did what they thought was right, and the relationship has been pretty good, as far as I know.
Right. And the United States has not passed a resolution recognizing the genocide.
No, as far as I know, it hasn't.
And that's in part because congressmen don't vote for it because they're lobbied by the Turkish lobby.
That's the leading question.
That's okay, you can answer it.
Also, the executive branch pressuring the Congress, because there's always some reason. Today it's Iraq, and before that was Cold War, and then next is going to be Afghanistan, then it's going to be Central Asia, which is going to be futures, Middle East maybe. So there's always a reason not to do it.
You're pretty sure that the Turkish lobby is lobbying legislators and government officials in other countries as well to stop them from passing such resolutions?
I don't know.
Why do you feel that Bernard Lewis is not objective?
I have read some of his scholarly articles, and especially those that have to do with the strategy for the United States on foreign policy that includes Afghanistan and Central Asia. It's very agenda-driven, that fulfills the agenda of certain entities that I happen to know about.
Okay. And by agenda-driven, you mean he starts with a point he's trying to make as opposed to doing real analysis?
Correct.
Okay. And what entities are you talking about when you say it's agenda-driven?
Certain business entities that related to military-industrial complex and oil, and also certain business entities, foreign business entities, and that even includes certain business entities in Turkey.
I think you said that since you've been working with the organization you're working with now, the Whistleblowers organization, you said that you're continue to get information
Absolutely.
from people, right?
Including from Turkey, yes.
From Turkey, getting information from current government people?
CIA, Defense Intelligence Agencies, FBI, National Security Agency, every single intelligence agency we have. I have lots of contacts in all of them. And these are even people who haven't blown the whistle publicly yet.
Okay. Give me one moment, please. To your knowledge, do you have any information about the Turkish government sponsoring chairs at universities? Like Princeton, University of Utah, other places?
Georgetown University. And not only that, some of these academic experts are also recruited agents who actively steal U.S. Military and intelligence-related information because they have security clearances and they have obtained position in high-level institutions. And one good example of it would be RAND Corporation and Professor Sabri Sayari in Georgetown University, who has stole tens of millions of dollars worth of secrets by actually recruiting people there that has been identified to him by his superiors, handlers, and he does it currently was doing it until 2002 with RAND Corporation. One of the individuals. That's like example of academic expert that they recruit.
And how do they recruit them, with money and other things?
Money, and in some cases combination of money and sexual related favors and information.
Now that you have had a chance to read the complaint,
No, I read the article with I didn't have time to read the complaint.
Okay. I won't ask you about the complaint. I'll ask you to read it. Do you have anything else? No. Let me, if you don't mind, if you still have the complaint in front of you,
Yes.
and if you would look at paragraph 14 of Ms. Schmidt's complaint, please. And I'm referring specifically to her reference to a letter from Mr. Krikorian. She quotes it as saying that Ms. Schmidt insanely, quote, denies the Christian Armenian Genocide at the hands of the Muslim Ottoman Empire. And then it goes on to say a couple of lines down, Jean Schmidt has taken $30,000 in blood money from Turkish-sponsored political action committees to deny the slaughter of 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children by the Ottoman Turkish government during World War I. Do you see that?
Right.
Now, do you think that, based on everything that you know, that Mr. Krikorian is coming out of left field by saying something like that?
As I said, based on my first-hand information, my own knowledge, anybody who strongly comes and denies this and also has that kind of relationship with the Turkish-sponsored PACs and organizations, etc., at least in the past, it's been exactly for this particular reason. It's been representing the other foreign interests and not being objective, representing United States interests. So this, again, as I said, it fits, I don't know anything about this lady, but it fits the modus operandi of all the others who were on the payroll one way or another. To just do this, they were on the payroll of the Turkish government entities.
So
certain Turkish
wouldn't
government.
surprise you at all that Mr. Krikorian would say something like that, given the circumstances.
It's purely hypothetical and pure speculation. I mean, this goes over the top. She said he met Mr. Krikorian until 9 days ago, Mr. Mannion. You're asking her to get inside his head?
You can answer.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay. Just, if you look at paragraph 20 of her complaint, she says it would be a crime under federal law for the Turkish government or any foreign national to fund a political action committee that made donations to a federal candidate seeking election to Congress, among other federal offices, and she cites a federal statute. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, many of the things that you described, that you have personal knowledge of, would be crimes under U.S. statutes, correct?
Absolutely, and we would have these people in jail, those people.
Give me one moment. Just bear with me. I'm sorry. Let me just ask it this. The passage I'm looking for, which is part of her complaint, is a statement that Mr. Krikorian made, a question that he put to the voters of, by the way, you're not a voter in Ohio, are you?
No.
Okay. And you're not making contributions to Mr. Krikorian's
I haven't
campaign?
contributed to anyone.
Right. And so if Mr. Krikorian asked the question, just generally asked the question of those voters, why would you want to vote for someone who's taken money from a government whose policies and practices cost American lives? Would that be a crazy question for him to ask under your, based on your experience?
Absolutely not, and I would even go further. For any candidate who starts really getting that kind of a close relationship with any foreign government to that degree and to get that kind of support because of that, that candidate, that would be a very valid, that would be a valid question, and I would not want to vote for someone.
Thank you, man. That's all I have, and thank you again for coming.
I think if I just have two questions. One, Ms. Edmonds, have you requested that the incumbent Attorney General, Eric Holder, investigate the crimes that you've identified at this deposition today?
I had asked his predecessor, Attorney General
I'm just
Ashcroft,
asking Mr. Holder.
asking him to review and revoke my state secrets privilege. Basically, that's what I'm asking.
Excuse me, I did not ask about the state secrets privilege. Have you asked Mr. Holder, the current Attorney General, to investigate the crimes that you've identified at this deposition today?
No, not directly.
Okay. The second thing is, I believe in response to the last question, Mr. Mann, you said if you were a voter, you certainly would not be inclined to vote for a candidate who had received and was receiving money from a foreign government.
No, that's not what
That's not what, okay, what was...
The record says what it says, but you're mischaracterizing it again.
Well, the record says, and if I can go back and if I can retrieve this here, I believe what the sentence that he was referring to, Mr. Mannion, was now I'm quoting, I ask the people of Ohio's 2nd Congressional District to ask themselves if our representative in Congress should be taking money from a foreign government that is killing our soldiers. And if that assertion is true, would you be inclined to vote against that candidate?
Yeah, that wasn't what I asked, but I don't have a problem with you asking that question.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, would I vote for that person?
Yes.
If somebody who has done that?
Yeah. If a candidate was taking money from a foreign government.
Candidate was taking
money from a foreign government. And that government was the government of Turkey. Or it could be any other government.
government. No, I would have serious questions about that candidate.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Okay, that's all I have.
Just like to
Thank you
know-
very much. Do you have any questions?
And I'd just like to know for the record that the Justice Department apparently declined to attend the deposition and that we've had no communications with them other than the written communications yesterday.
I just want to read.
That concludes it. Do you want to read it? Do you have a right to read the transcript and make corrections?
Yes, we would
Right
like a-
now, you
wanna
mean?
read the
No, we'd
statute?
like a copy provided to the witness for her to read.
So should we give it to Mr. Trump?
That would be great.
Yes, and yes.
Do it. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Here marks the end of videotape number 2, taken in the deposition of Ms. Sibel Edmonds. Going off the record, the time on the video screen is 15:23 and 15 seconds.